And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
I'm Miguel.
And I hope you are having an amazing start to your week. Listen, this is going to be a really, really big one.
Because we have a late start to the week.
We do. We already have a late start tonight, but again, you know us. It's how we roll. Lots to talk about on the agenda tonight. Some of it will go quicker than others, but we are going to talk the incredible series finale of AMC's The Walking Dead. A whole bunch of horror news, a couple of updates. We got our very first look at Dylan's New Nightmare, the official, what I would consider to be official, even though technically it's the unofficial sequel to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. We're going to review the Sawyer Massacre, which is an unofficial prequel. Again, saying unofficial, but legit, it could be very, very easily the official prequel to Tobey Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. We will be talking spoilers on that. The Blumhouse Atomic Monkey, I don't know how to speak anymore.
What the
fuck? The merger between Jason Blum and James Wan's horror companies to make one big Avengers-level horror studio. And we also have, we're diving back into a little bit of Marvel talk, because as we've said, we were super, super busy with Oktoberfest and with Halloween Ends and just all of the craziness of the last couple of months, and we've kind of missed out on talking a little bit about Marvel and about the whole multiverse saga and kind of where we're at right now. So we'll give a little bit of a Spider-Man update. I know, right? We'll give a little bit of a Spider-Man update. Miguel is going to give us his spoiler-free Wakanda Forever review. I have not seen Wakanda Forever yet. I'm really, really sorry, everybody, but I haven't.
Keep going back.
And then we're going to close out the night by talking maybe some of the biggest news in the entertainment world in a long time. Bob Chapek is officially out as the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Bob Iger is back. I know, right? Who are they? They're officially, or Bob Iger is officially back to run the Walt Disney Company. So lots of changes, lots of information. Miguel, my friend, how's Kentucky treating you on this really crisp November evening?
You say that like you're out of state. Are you out of state now? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, I'm not. I'm in state. I'm stateside currently.
He states. That's not the way you say it, but I'm good. Other than that, yeah, I'm fine. I know it's gonna be a long ass day, so I didn't. Long ass podcast, so I didn't particularly get a beer. I got me a fucking energy drink because I know it's gonna be a long night. So.
Miguel's drinking an energy drink at 8:46 p.m. Just let it be known.
I know who sleeps, right?
Yeah. Guys, if you're watching or listening and you haven't already, please be sure to leave this episode a like. I think I'm gonna split this show into different segments and release them, just because I know it's a lot to sift through. I just rattled off all of the topics that we're gonna talk about. A lot's gone on.
Some may be shorts, some may be damn near another episode.
I know.
So we'll see how that goes.
You know, and part of the, we like these little hodgepodge shows. I mean, we used to do this quite a bit. Especially earlier on in our channel's history, when we still had the
Siri.
Let's Talk.
What is hodgepodge?
Are you kidding me right now?
Is a former professional American
That's not it.
That ain't it.
That ain't it, Barry.
You don't know what hodgepodge is?
That's besides the point.
So, if anybody is wondering what Miguel needs for Christmas, a dictionary would be a really great place to start.
Or a more updated version of Siri, because fuck, she gave me a football player out of my accent.
Sierra, if you're listening, buy Miguel a dictionary.
That's nothing new.
Maybe we should all buy him a dictionary.
That's
you
nothing
need
new
you need
her.
the Rosetta Stone of dictionaries, where it just talks to you, you can listen to it in your car.
The Rosetta Stone. Oh my god. How archaic.
But these little mixtures of a bunch of different topics, we used to do this a lot when the Let's Talk Movie News show was still around. RIP Let's Talk Movie News. That hasn't been around in a hot minute.
Hey, you know what? That was a great idea.
It was a great idea.
That shit was fun.
It was a fun idea, and our channel's
evolved. We wouldn't be at episode 100 if it wasn't for that. Just letting you know that.
Know. Technically, we're past episode 100. I mean, you know that, right? Technically, we're probably at around 150 or so. But of the main Let's Talk Movies episodes, we are 2 away. I know, right? This is this is Earth 616 or whatever the main timeline is. What's the main one?
It's Earth 616.
That's what I thought, 616. So we're a part of the 616. It's like a Bloods Encrypt. I feel like I sound on 8 Mile. Everybody from the 313 put their mother. I feel like Eminem when I say that, but so yeah, let's do this. Let's dive right in.
Okay.
So on Sunday night, let me say this. Sunday night was a very emotional evening for me. Many of you know who've been watching for a long time. I am a massive fan of The Walking Dead. We both were, although Miguel, you fell off of it a little bit.
Probably because I stopped having cable.
Last, third, yeah. And admittedly,
non-existent cable will do that to you.
Admittedly, I kind of fell off for a little bit too. I had moved, and there was just it was the pandemic, and there was a lot of stuff happening, and we actually got back on. And we did when they did the 6 extended episodes after the pandemic had already began.
Yeah.
We actually did little shows about each of those episodes, and that was a lot of fun to sit and break down each episode, and I stuck with it after that, and it was really cool to get back into it because I had missed it. It had been a little bit since I really was invested every single time, but The Walking Dead had its series finale on Sunday night, and I'm going to be straight up with you, it made me a little emotional. It was a very... It's crazy to think about the fact that it's over. And when I say it's over,
it's over.
We know it's not really over, even though Miguel is insisting that it's over.
I think
it's not
over,
really
guys.
over. But The Walking Dead has meant a lot to me as a person. It was the first series that I know, right? As someone who lives. It was the first series that I really felt emotionally attached to. I remember where I was sitting on my couch in our living room in my parents' old house when I watched the premiere in 2010. In October of 2010, I remember the countless nights that Miguel would be at our house and we'd be watching episodes together, making jalapeno poppers and popcorn and all kinds of shit. I mean, it was just we really did. We had the best times watching that show, and breaking it down. When Negan was first introduced, and you got the POV shot of who he was killing, and they left that a cliffhanger in the mid-season finale. Miguel and I kid you not, Miguel and I sat there with our phones like this for about 2.5 hours. Trying to sit and see if there was anything of a hint to see that to figure out who Negan had killed.
Yeah. You remember the Twitter leak of it, and we spent even more hours trying to decipher that one.
Right.
It was like the leak audio or whatever. What actually happened? Yeah. I was like, holy shit, this is wild.
There's just so many great memories of watching that show, and I know The Walking Dead has its criticisms. I mean, there are people that obviously think that it's a terrible show and think that it just kind of went off the rails and it sucks and all this stuff, but I'm gonna be honest with you, it really, I know things got a little strange after Rick left. It kind of had to re-find its footing, I think. Not that it was ever bad. I don't think the show was ever, I don't think it ever hit a rock bottom. I mean, I think it was always a really good show. But it kind of had to evolve a little bit. But this finale...
It definitely evolved.
It did.
6 or 7 times.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think when you have this kind of a story that's set in this polka dot... This polka dot world.
Shout out to the dead.
Where's Jay Dead when you need him? This post-apocalyptic world... I think the story has to evolve. Characters have to die. People have to... things have to change. You have to move on. But this finale was really beautiful. It kind of... what I've kind of chalked it up to is... No, the story is not over. I don't know if you're up to date, but spoiler alert, there are 7 other Walking Dead projects that continue all of these characters' story in the works right now. Some of them are set to release next year. So while the main show is over now, the story of all of these characters will very much continue, and I'm excited about that. But it just kind of feels like the show, The Walking Dead isn't really over, but this chapter in its history is over. The world is going to expand, and the characters' stories and where they go and what they can do is going to expand. Anybody who watched Miguel, I don't know if you've seen. Did you watch the final scene from it?
I saw the final scene on YouTube.
Dude, it had me in tears. I was literally sitting there watching it with tears strolling down my face because it was just like, it was a perfect tie-in. Every character, no matter how long, whether they were from season 1 or from season 11, everybody got their moment. So many of the actors had cameos when Rick, is giving his monologue and it's jumping back and forth, and Michonne says, remember what he told you. And of course she's referring to Rick saying, we're the ones who live. And all of the actors from the past, Stephen Yeun's Glenn and Michael Cudlitz's Abraham and and Dale and everybody, when they all had their moment of saying, we're the ones who live, and then you finally see Rick with his hands up when the helicopter says, come on, Rick, you can't escape the living. I mean, it was just like, I was bawling. And then Rick says, of course, like they live, everybody that's died lives in us. We're the ones who live. Like, it was so emotional, because this story, to anybody who criticizes The Walking Dead, I will say that you have to look at The Walking Dead not necessarily as a horror story. I mean, yes, it's full of horrific things and it's set within the backdrop of the zombie apocalypse, but The Walking Dead is a drama series about what it means to be family. You got to get that Vin Diesel family in there. And survival, and coming together through the worst of times and the best of times. And now I'm starting to sound like a novel from like 1936. But it's been so special to me as somebody who has watched from the very beginning, and to see it end that way, where it's like I feel satisfied in the ending that we got, but at the same time it opens the door for so much more at the same time. That's such a cool feeling, and that's such a unique way to end a series, especially a series that has so many different directions and so many different things going on in it like this. I mean, The Walking Dead is 150% the MCU of horror franchises at this point. At least that's what it's becoming.
Much said it on
that's
on their
literally
website.
what it's becoming.
Yeah.
TWDU, The Walking Dead universe. That's what it is at this point. So, I wanted to take a minute and acknowledge that.
TW wishes they could do that.
Right? But yeah, man, I wanted to take a second and acknowledge that, because I mean it when I say it. And Miguel, I don't know if you would agree with this or say this, but like, for me personally, The Walking Dead changed my life. And I admit it. And I love Breaking Bad. I love The X-Files. There are many other TV series that I adore. But The Walking Dead is always going to be my number one, just because it meant that much to me. Seeing these characters evolve. I mean, the character arcs in this show. God, look at Maggie and Negan. Negan literally beat her husband to death with a baseball bat in front of her. And they had a moment where she forgave him in that finale. And she was like, I forgive you. Like, even look at Carol. Carol was beaten by her husband through the entire first season and wouldn't talk to anybody. And now Carol is like the leader of Alexandria at the beginning of or at the end of the show. And she's this, like, she's arguably the most badass, strong character out of any of them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just the character arcs and the way these characters have evolved and changed and have been written. It's unlike anything else for me. Me personally. I know other people would disagree, and that's completely fine. I get it. It's not a perfect show. But The Walking Dead changed my life for the better, man. It made me a better fan, made me a better dude. Legit. So, to AMC's The Walking Dead.
Cheers. To AMC's The Walking Dead. Rick Grimes.
I'm going to be honest with you. As soon as...
my man Steve was wild in that fucking scene.
As soon as I saw Rick's, as soon as it cut to black and I heard Rick's voice, I was like, I stood up out of bed, like, because I was sitting there watching on my laptop, and I stood up and I was like, Julia was asleep, and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, it's Rick. I was like, Rick's here, dude. Rick came back. I was like, Rick Grimes has returned. And then it showed Michonne, and then it started showing all of the characters that have died, and he's giving his monologue, and he's saying, you know, he's talking about how all of them live on through them, and like we're the ones who live, and you're hearing all of their voices and seeing Herschel and Dale and T-Dog and Andrea and everybody, like the OG characters and stuff. I was just like I was sitting there like wiping tears from my eyes the entire time. It was amazing.
Damn, dude, it's a show.
Well, I filmed a quick little reaction to it after. It was just like a 4-minute like of reaction, and I look terrible. I'm really tired, and I'm sitting there like trying not to cry in the video. It's really funny. So I was like, I need to address this on a show where I actually have like legitimate thoughts and I can process them.
The
so
people need to know. Yes, absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, JDead 100. First of all, welcome, guys. So glad you're here. Sorry, we're just now acknowledging you. Rosalie is here. JDead is here. Derpy, what's going on, man? You guys are amazing. So glad you're here. JDead, you're exactly right. The Walking Dead is a study on human behavior through almost impossible circumstances. 100%. It is. It's a story about people. It's not a zombie story. And I think some people have always had an issue with that it's not zombie centered. Mm-hmm. But the zombies are secondary in The Walking Dead. You know what I mean? The people are first and foremost. And that's why I love the show so much. It's about the characters. It's not about blood and guts and gore. And don't get me wrong, there's blood and guts and gore. So, dude,
I think I watched a scene where Daryl pretty much like said the title of the fucking show.
Yeah. Well, because if you remember, there was a scene. It's one of the best scenes in the entire series when they're held up in a barn. It's when Aaron finds them, and Aaron's trying to tell them about Alexandria, and they don't want to trust him. Mm-hmm. When they're out on the road after the prison and after Terminus, and God, do you remember Terminus? That was a hot minute ago.
That was
Cannibal Colony, like okay. But what was I gonna say? What were we just talking about?
The Walking Dead.
I know. Okay, I know that, but like, what were we?
The phrase.
Oh yeah,
The Walking
because
Dead.
Rick said in one of his speeches, he was like, the dead walk all around us, but like we're the ones who Rick said we're the Walking Dead, and then in the last episode, they're like there's basically Pamela Milton, who was the leader of the Commonwealth, had shut out all of her own people because she was trying to save herself, and she was terrible, and she was like, if we open the gates, the dead are going to get in here. Mm-hmm. And Daryl and our survivors had their guns pointed at the Commonwealth soldiers, and the Commonwealth it was basically just everybody was going to die and nobody was going to win. And they were trying to.
Was gonna die.
That's literally what it would have happened, because our survivors and the Commonwealth soldiers would have all killed each other, and then the walkers would have killed all of the Commonwealth people, and then that would have been it. And nobody would have won. And Daryl finally threw up his hands, and Gabriel was like, he looked at Pamela and he was like, I'm gonna let them in. Shoot me if you're going to. But like,
who would have thought that Gabriel, the fucking priest, who literally did the exact same thing in his fucking origin story, letting his entire parish become zombies, and then him at the end of the show be the one to say, you know what? No, these people gotta come in. We gotta save them. And looking at the fucking governor is like, bitch, open the goddamn gate.
Yeah.
So, that's character development, if I got to say so myself.
100%. And, the point that I was making is Daryl finally, like, they were all like, what do we do? Like, like they were like going to shoot Gabriel for opening the door. And Daryl finally threw up his hands, and he said, none of us are the enemy here. And he said, he pointed at the walkers, like, coming towards them, and he said, we're not the Walking Dead. And then Daryl went and opened the gates, and they let all of the people in, and they arrested, and that's how it ended, basically. Like, they chose humanity, and that was really cool. But, like, again, it's not a spoiler at this point. Rosita was, I knew there would have to be a pretty major character that died. We had Luke that died, and his death was actually pretty harrowing. At the very beginning of the episode, it was in like the first 5 minutes. But
hey, show no mercy.
I know, it really was. Like, when it started and he died like less than 5 minutes in, I was like, damn, we're really just hitting the ground running right now, aren't we? I was like I feel like the writers were like, okay, we have to kill off a major character in the first 10 minutes of the show, or else it's not going to be the finale. Like, you have to. But it was just it was his death was really good. Rosita's death was very sad because she had gotten bit and we didn't know. And she was happy up till the very end. Like, she was happy and joyful that they won and that they fought for themselves, you know. And it was just, she had a really good final scene. And of course, seeing Rick and Michonne come back just, I mean, it blew my entire mind. I mean, I missed Rick. I think everybody really missed Rick, you know.
Who's Rick again?
Who's Rick?
Who's Rick?
Sheriff Rick.
Sheriff
but
Rick.
yeah, man, this show, I will ever be eternally grateful for The Walking Dead and what it did for me and what it did for so many people. And I'm really excited. I've actually kind of toyed around with the idea of doing a rewatch on here on the channel, doing something with the show. I know that would be a huge undertaking, and I don't mean do that every week. I mean, like, every once in a while, just like, hey, let's watch a new episode. Let's watch another episode. Let's watch another episode. Whether you do it with me or not, I don't care. You can join the fun.
That's a big feat, dog. I'll skip the first 2 seasons.
Listen, you gotta do something with me because we gotta keep the marriage alive somehow. If you're not gonna give me what I need in the bedroom, then we gotta do something to keep things, you know.
Bro, we were strictly platonic. I don't know what the fuck you talking about.
But yeah, man. Let's go over the chat, see what you guys are saying. Derpy said, I think The Last of Us will be better than The Walking Dead. Yeah, I understand people would say that. I have very high hopes for The Last of Us. I think The Last of Us is going to be absolutely incredible. I have a hard time comparing zombie things because it's like comparing apples and oranges. Like, yes, there's zombies, but it's also very different stories. You know what I mean? The Walking Dead is a character study in a very vast group of people. The Last of Us is a little bit more of an intimate story between 2 people. And I think Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are going to absolutely knock it out of the park. But, you know, I think that I think it's going to be great. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
I'll say this, though. If a zombie movie, after The Walking Dead, you know, The Walking Dead is not going anywhere, obviously. But, like, from the main consensus of the main storyline, if, like, another show sometime down the line, if there's no other shows that can compete with it, I'd say, like, the industry's probably done a shitty job. There has to be another great show that comes out.
Well, of course, and there will be. Of course, there will be. You know, but it's the same kind of thing of, like, you can't compare, even though technically it's a remake, you can't compare Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead with Romero's Dawn of the Dead. They're 2 different movies, you know? Zombies are so stylistically different from each other, and that's where I know that Romero has very famously said, like, this is what a zombie is. Like, a zombie is like what you see in that original Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead trilogy. They're slow moving, they're decaying, they're, you know, similar to what we've seen in The Walking Dead. I think The Walking Dead is probably the most similar thing to what happened in the, you know, to what happened in the, in that original Romero trilogy. But I am somebody that, like, and I know 28 Days Later is a popular one that people are always like, that's not a zombie movie. Are you out of your friggin' mind? Yes, it is. 28 Days Later is one of the, I know, everybody's like, they're infected. They're not zombies. I was like, okay, well, zombies are infected with a virus. or like the fungus, like in The Last of Us. Like, they're zombies. I'm sorry. Any way you want to put it, they're zombies. I don't know how to break that to you. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think both of them are going to be great, and I think, you know, there are so many other zombie shows out there too. Was it Black Summer or something? One on Netflix. One of my favorite things to do, again, you know, I'm
is look at zombie movies. Look at new zombie shows.
Well, zombie shows, but also I would get on YouTube and look at zombie fan films all the time.
Oh,
literally
really?
all the time as a pastime.
Have you found like a good one? Is there like a good one that
there's
just pops up?
plenty of good ones. Well, and that's the good thing about a zombie fan film, though, is that anybody could do it and do it pretty. Yeah. You could make a pretty scary zombie fan film in your backyard. You really could if you did it right. You know. Yeah. And there are some that are high budget.
Because you're not really, because you're not really like dealing with source material. Honestly, you're dealing with like the premise of zombies. And as long as you got like flesh-eating people and some good old makeup, I mean, you got stuff pretty solid. Zombie fan film, dare I say, for dumb cheap.
Well, and that's why I've always really been a fan of the zombie subgenre. And we are going to move on. I know we have a lot to talk about, but the possibilities are endless with it. Like I've said before, and like we're going to dive into on the next season of Purely and Simply Evil. The possibilities with zombies are endless. You can do whatever you want. It's the ultimate social experiment of what do people do when everything that they know about their society crumbles and you're left to survive, in this awful, terrible world. Like, that's interesting, You can do a lot with the zombie subgenre, and you can do a lot with different interesting stories in that subgenre. So yeah.
Shout out to the end of The Walking Dead.
Yes.
And we are all excited for what's more to come because there's so many.
100%.
There's like 4 or 5 now coming out.
There's a lot.
2 or 3 movies. Yeah, it's literally like they planted a seed with The Walking Dead. Now it's just fucking gone everywhere. So
yeah, I mean you have Fear the Walking Dead will still continue. You'll have Daryl Dixon's spin-off series. You'll have Negan and Maggie's spin-off series, which is called Dead City, and it's set in New York. Incredible. You'll have Rick and Michonne's spin-off series. You'll still have World Beyond if they do anything with that set of characters and with that whole thing with the CRM. Plus, I think, if I'm not
Tales
mistaken,
of the Walking Dead.
Yes, Tales of the Walking Dead. The movie trilogy, I believe, is still on the docket. I mean, this story isn't going anywhere. These characters ain't going anywhere. There's a lot left to tell with these characters, and that makes me excited. I'm excited that, honestly, I expected to see like a glimpse of Rick at the end. I didn't expect to get like 6 minutes straight of Rick, but I was glad we did. It made me really, really excited as like a springboard into. I knew that I was a little skeptical going into the series finale because I was like, okay, how do you wrap up what we've seen so far, but also springboard into all of these other stories that come next, Because that could be a really hard thing to do. But they did it, man. They absolutely killed it. It was a really, really, really beautiful, beautiful send off for this franchise. So
bravo.
It was incredible. Jaded said Carol made me realize I have a thing for strong MILFs.
There's a certain age when you make that realization. I'm glad you got there, man.
It's okay. Listen, Carol is a great
Carol,
character.
A boss. She is
She really is.
She's a baddie.
She really is.
She knows how to get
100%.
shit done.
She does. And she doesn't ask permission either. She just does things without
not anymore.
Yeah, she just goes for it. Yeah.
I remember a specific timeline where they finally get to Alexandria, and this was like after like she well established herself as a badass when she like took down Terminus like alone.
Yeah, right.
And then when she gets there and they're turning over her gun, she's like kind of like doing it like she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. She says, "And I know how to cook." And she became like the house mother.
Yeah.
For like 3 or 4
But she was
episodes.
secretly a psycho.
Yeah, but she was like secretly like a fucking badass, and I was like, oh shit.
Are you talking about when she had the sleeve pulled over during the all out war arc with Negan?
Yeah, that one too. Then when she was like lost and she was like on her own, and she like the fucking Negan people were like, "Oh, look who's all alone." She's like about to cry, and all of a sudden she just fucking gaps.
She was wearing that
every
long
single
coat,
one of the,
and she was all like, "Don't kill me!" And she had a machine gun in the coat, and she was just like, and they all died. Everybody was like,
I about said, dude, how many years were we into The Walking Dead at that one? Like,
oh, that was right before they killed off Rick. So like, that was probably season 8, season 9.
So how many years though into the apocalypse? Because what I'm saying is,
I don't know. Sure. Honestly, the timeline has gotten a little. I'd have to go back and really think about it.
But what I'm saying is with Carol though, if I was with a group of my guys and we ran across some random girl that was walking in the middle of the street, like X amount of years, like a good X amount of years through the apocalypse, I can almost certainly assume that she's crazy and she's killed a lot of people, because why else would she be by herself?
Yeah.
She's obviously done some shit.
Miguel, just look at the flowers. Bro,
For her, maybe.
she straight up shot 2 little girls in the back of the head. Well, she shot one in the back of
She
the head
straight up just like
because she was
off
psycho.
a girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it looked like she didn't want to. So at least she has some humanity right there. But I think that's where humanity went out the window. I'd say.
Yeah.
After she had to kill, she saw those 2 deaths, I'd definitely say that was one of those moments.
Yeah, Jada, that was a crazy one too when Beth died. Oh my, there were so many moments in this show that just were like holy crap.
Bro, that was I mean, look, I love my men in blue, but that was an ACAB moment right there. I was like, bro, shoot her. I swear to God, in her, Rick. Yeah. But no, look, all respect to them. All respect to the men and women in blue. But that was a bad moment right there. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Jada said, what was the first time The Walking Dead made you cry? For me, and this is to this day, again, I remember where I was sitting. I remember sitting on the couch, and I was just like, me and my dad, and I don't even know, you might have been there. I know my cousin Will was there, my mom was there, but when at the mid-season finale of season 2, when we literally spent 6 episodes, a half of a season, 8 episodes, a half of a season, looking for Sophia. When we were at Herschel's farm. Bro, when Shane ripped open the barn doors and they shot all of the walkers and Sophia walked out as a walker at the end, bro, that has got to be one of the saddest, most heartbreaking scenes in any TV show ever. And the cap to that, I've actually gone back and rewatched that scene, and the icing on the cake of what made that so sad is Shane spent all of this time going crazy, being like, Rick can't lead, Rick can't do this, Rick isn't strong, and Shane couldn't even put the bullet in her. Like, Shane couldn't put her down. Like, the only person that had the nutsack to walk up and actually shoot her was Rick. And just, I know, like, but it's just, like, the moment Rick realizes that nobody else is going to do it, because Daryl's holding Carol, because Carol's bawling her eyes out, and Rick, the minute Rick unlocks his, like, the holster. I almost said the pouch. I want you to know that the pouch. When he unclicks his holster and pulls out the python, and Lori grabs Carl and says, "Don't watch." It's just like, oh my God, we're really doing this. Like he's about to shoot her.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That was a scene where it was like nobody is safe.
I know. Well, and he shoots her, and you hear Carol crying, and it zooms out, and they're all just standing there like upset, and then it cuts to black, and it was just like. Now I gotta wait 4 more months to see what happened. Like what? Yeah. Like how do you how do you just leave? You just left us hanging like that for 4 months on like the most heartbreaking scene ever. So that was the one where I cried. Glenn's death was pretty bad too.
Glenn's death didn't make me sad. I was just like, "Fuck, this is gnarly, guys."
Glenn,
that was a moment where it got like really bloody. It was probably like the bloodiest I've seen a TV show, to be honest.
Oh yeah, it went pretty wild. Do you remember there was like
a lot of people left? A lot of people left the show after that.
Parents were pissed.
I believe
that they put that on TV. Like the parents were not happy. Like people were writing letters to AMC and to like cable companies and stuff.
Bro,
and they're
like
you're wrong for airing.
Greg Nicotero was probably like, "Hey, you see what Martha said about this scene? Check it out."
Abraham's was bad enough because he hits Abraham and you see the blood, and Abraham goes, "Suck my nuts," and then he hits him again, whatever. But when he hit Glenn and Glenn's eye is like dangling out of his eye socket, you're just like. Like it was terrible to watch. It was awful. It was crazy, man. Yeah, it was nuts. Listen, we might have to do like a top 10 moments from The Walking Dead or something on a separate show because I could go on.
That's an entirely different show.
It really is. I could go on about this forever. Really quickly before we move on to our next topic, Epic Retro Time. What's going on, guys? Just got in the chat, but do you feel that all of these spin-offs will be a little much in all of 2023? And do you think one season for each will be enough?
Is it just one season?
I don't know. I hope. 2 things here. I hope that they have multiple seasons, and B, I hope it doesn't all take place in a year. I think that's going to be a little overwhelming. And I want this to be well done. Like, we finally have Rick back. Like, the speculation is done. Like, Rick is back. You know what I mean? Michonne is back. And I don't want them to waste that. You know what I mean? We've spent all this time building up Rick is coming back, Rick is coming back, Rick is coming back, Rick is coming back. And then it's just like, oh.
Then nothing for...
I know. Like, it would suck if there was no real payoff to that. So,
I would say... I would want to start with Rick. I'd want to, yeah.
Yeah, I think the first thing that the next Walking Dead story that comes out is Dead City, which is Negan and Maggie. I'm very curious to see how Negan and Maggie end up in New York, and Daryl's show is supposed to take place in Paris, in France. So like, I'm like, how does Daryl end up in Paris? Like how do we spread out so much? You know what I mean? Like amongst everybody. Rick is in Pittsburgh. You know, like it's just, we're very spread out.
It's not like you can fly.
I know.
Can
like
you?
I'm not. Well, the CRM is pretty. The CRM is pretty.
They're pretty loaded.
They're pretty advanced. Yeah, it's basically what's left of the U.S. military. So I don't know. I don't think overall. I don't think it's too much. I just think that. I don't think it's too much. I just hope that they handle it well. I hope they take their time with it. And really, really give the characters the attention and the care that they deserve. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I think that's interesting. So, and that's kind of my thoughts on it. So, listen, props to the cast and crew of The Walking Dead on 12 incredible years, 177 episodes. It's been an absolute hell of a run for The Walking Dead. Really has been, 100%. So
great job, gentlemen.
100%. Great job. And as we see him in all his glory in the thumbnail, my boy, officer friendly himself, Rick Grimes.
Bro, he looks like Logan's fucking old ass uncle.
I know, right? I actually thought the same thing. I was like, he kind of looks like Wolverine. I'm not gonna lie, he really does. Between the beard and the scraggly hair and like the dirty jeans, like legit,
and being barefooted,
he kind of looks like Logan. He really does.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I 100%. The Walking Dead it changed my life. So, so let's move on, shall we? Miguel, let's move into the horror world. What do you want to talk first? You want to talk some Blumhouse? You want to talk our first look at Dylan's New Nightmare? You want to review the Sawyer Massacre? Where do you want to head?
Here, let's talk about the Sawyer Massacre because I really gotta take a piss. So give me a hot second. Give your 2 cents because I gotta gather my 2 cents. Okay.
Okay.
I'll be right
well,
back,
real quick, I'm gonna catch up with the chat then while while Miguel takes his little pee-pee break. I'm going to check up with the chat. So, let's see, where were we at? Rosalie said Carol taking down the wolves was badass. Oh yeah, dude. Carol has taken down a few groups. She took out the wolves. She took out the Terminus group. She helped to take out the A peeps. Like, remember when they found the church with A Garrett's hole? It was like the people who were left from Terminus. She helped to take them out. Jaded said, what's worse is when they found out later Sophia wasn't a zombie, she just had strep throat. Oh my god. Oh, could you imagine? It's nuts, man. Absolutely nuts. I actually posted, I was feeling nostalgic the day of the finale, and if you follow us on Twitter, please do, at LTM Podcast KY. I actually, I went through and I was kind of posting little snippets of, moments that were just incredible throughout the years, going back and remembering certain moments from The Walking Dead, and just ones that kind of appealed to me and ones that I remembered fondly, and, yeah, it's been a hell of a ride, man. Let's see. Jaded said Dave Chappelle's SNL Negan skit, though. Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was really good, man. Dave Chappelle is awesome. Miguel actually just sent me this, and my mom had sent me too. Legit, Steve-O is coming to Lexington to do his Triple X tour or whatever it's called. I don't remember what it's called, but it's showing all the stuff that was too gnarly to show on Jackass, which sounds awesome. I was like, I want to go. I definitely want to go, 100%. Colton, what's going on, man? We talked to Colton at Scarefest at the We Watched a Movie meetup. We're hanging out with him and a couple other people.
Did I hear you were talking about the Negan thing?
No, right now I'm talking about Colton that we met at Scarefest.
My bad. Hi, Colton.
Colton said, "What up, dudes? Brad, you got to do a room tour so I can see that collection." Yeah, that's coming too. I haven't put all of my posters and stuff up yet. I don't have room for all of my posters, but
yeah, he's got a lot of them.
I have a lot of stuff that's not out right now, but that'll happen at some point. We'll get a room tour going. Glad to see you, man. Jaded said $10. Miguel didn't wash his hands.
I so did wash my hands because I got food too. So I mean,
can I smell them?
Pause. No, dude, I wash my hands. Calm down.
Listen, Miguel and I are supposed to be hanging out tomorrow night in Lexington. The first thing I'm gonna
wash my hands.
The first thing I'm gonna do when I see him is walk up to him and be like, "Ugh."
It's fucking gross, dude.
Listen, we've been trying to.
I want you to do that in front of a crowd.
No, could you imagine? We like as soon as we walk in a restaurant. Like, we've been trying to reschedule this like hangout session just to go like have some drinks, literally for like 3 weeks.
Really have.
It's been a hot minute.
The second I see you, I'm gonna look at Sierra like, I smell my boyfriend, and run to you.
Oh man. All right, so the Sawyer Massacre is an unofficial prequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, written and directed by the one and only Mr. Steve Merlo. If any live through the nightmare, they'll wish that they hadn't. Now, again, as we said with so many of the J-Dad said, "Damn, Brad." That's a true friend.
Emoji.
No, but as we said with so many of the fan films, if you look at what Dave has done, Dave McRae with It's Me, Billy, if you look at what we're about to talk about in just a few minutes with Cecil Laird and Dylan's New Nightmare, and Vincent DeSanti with the Never Hike Alone films, and now what Steve has done with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, my hat has to go off to these people that... to the people that spend so much time and effort and energy into crafting these incredible fan films, because they do this for no profit. There's no profit in this, you know? This is all, it's basically a huge passion project.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I always like to start off our reviews with my biggest compliment to the project or to the film or to the show. And something that I think a lot of fan films struggle with is the fact that a lot of times it's like when you're taking an established IP, when you're taking an established property and an established story with established characters, how do you bring something new to the table while paying homage to what came before? My biggest compliment to Steve and the Sawyer Massacre and to the fantastic cast and crew that created it is that it looks like a true Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. It feels the atmosphere, the vibe you get, the locations. It feels like a traditional Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. And it's not a perfect film. I'll say that now. And Steve has said that. He sent me. Steve and I talked a little bit last night. He said he was going to try to make it to the chat a little later in the show. But he sent me an episode of Merlot's Movie Massacre, which is his podcast on his channel. Please go subscribe to his channel if you haven't already. Where he kind of went in depth about some of these things, and it was really, really interesting. And it gave me a whole new perspective on this film. Things that I didn't, not a whole new perspective, but something very important that I didn't quite pick up on, and I'm curious if you picked up on it. Because it went over my head a little bit, and that's not, that I think he did a fantastic job. Admittedly, I've only seen the film once, so I want to go back and re-watch it and see if I pick up on some more of the dialogue and things like that. But my biggest compliment to the film is that they took a story that was established and characters that was that were established in a really unique way, and they added to the lore. They legit added to what we knew from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. And I think that was a difficult task, and they pulled it off. They did it. It was really, really cool, to see how they tied it into what came after in 1974's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also in the unique ways that they added to the lore and kind of almost put a different spin on it. Like, it's kind of interesting to think about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre now that I've seen the Sawyer Massacre, because it's like, it kind of changes things a little bit. It changes the dynamic. It changes the way you think about this family and these characters and their dynamic. So my hat goes off to him, because that was not an easy thing to do, and it's definitely a thing. Policing?
Think
Police?
police?
The police? Put the every breath you take. No, but it.
You mentioned the band. How'd you bring the band in there?
Oh, I need to take a drink of my beer after that one.
Oh my god.
But they literally extended the lore, and they extended my understanding of what I knew about these characters and what I knew about that original film. And that's my biggest compliment. So, Miguel, what were your immediate thoughts after watching the Sawyer Massacre?
Steve, don't knock me on this, okay? But I'll say this. Oh shit, I hit my drink. I don't like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, okay? It's not my movie. It's not my thing. But I'll say this, man.
Therefore, he's giving your movie a D-.
No, but I can appreciate for what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why I'll say this. I didn't like the Sawyer Massacre, but it's because it was just as gruesome, and you pretty much like gave the Texas Chainsaw Massacre its justice, I'd say. Because you basically said, I remember you mentioned something in the podcast, because I was like, how gory is this movie? And you said that there's a good amount of blood. I was like, dog, that was a lot of blood right there in that movie. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of blood. But you pretty much gave the gore its own, like, it made you like, the gore wasn't there, but the blood was there. And it was like the whole premise. What's the thing? Like, the fear is like what's in your things that you can't see, right? The thing that's more scary is the things that you can't see. So I'll say this: like, you really gave Texas Chainsaw Massacre its justice. Like, you definitely paid homage to it, and I can say bravo to you on that. Storyline, I was kind of following it for a little bit. I actually liked the whole everything that was going on, and I'll tell you what, man, I love Leatherface in this movie, dog.
Yeah.
This little feature, I love Leatherface throughout this entire movie. So bravo to you, man. He's probably one of my favorite Leatherface. I'll say that. I liked him a lot. And in regards to like the characters that are in here, I gotta say, man, you did a great job casting some of these, man.
Yes.
You did a really good job. Props.
100%.
And yeah, just pretty much what I thought, you captured the essence of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As someone who doesn't particularly like that franchise, I could say that you definitely did capture the essence of it with the chase scenes, the tone, the colors throughout this fucking movie. Like, it definitely looked hot. I tell you that much.
I think part of the reason that you don't like, and I've seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre twice with Miguel, and based on your response, I think you don't like it because of how grimy it makes you feel. Like, it really makes you feel like you need to go sit in church for about 10 hours after you watch it. Like, it really does.
No, for this one, I'd say I'd agree with you on that. But for this one, dog, like, I'm not gonna lie, Steve, you made me feel bad for like every single fucking character, because the way these actors were really like showcasing like how helpless they were. Bro, that entire scene where all I heard was the two girls just fucking screaming for like 15 minutes almost. I was sitting here and I was like, dog, can one of them get out or something? I was like, this ain't, can one of them live? Like, hell.
Well, so
Sorry I like movies, right?
I wish Steve was in the chat, and I'm sure he's going to show up a little later. But that, so let me rewind. I'll also say this, and this is another really, really big positive for me. I'm being honest when I say this. This film felt more Texas Chainsaw Massacre than I'll say most of the official Texas Chainsaw Massacre films do.
And a lot of people would agree with you on that. I was reading the comments on this movie, and they said they were saying this movie felt more like the Texas Chainsaw, and it definitely
It really did.
tops
Yeah.
a good number of the installments in this franchise. So.
I love the original film, the original 1974 film, but I'm not a fan of this franchise as a whole. There are things about it I like. I mean, like next, you look at Next Generation is hot, stinky garbage that's been left out in the driveway all night. But there are things about it that I can enjoy. But honestly, I really like the first film. I love the 2003 remake. I'm going to be honest with you. Steve, don't hate me. I think the 2003 remake may be my favorite of the entire franchise, including the original. I think it is incredibly well done. I really like it. I think it's scary as hell. I think it's brutal. I think it's very atmospheric. Legitimately, it's scary. Like, it's a scary film to watch. It's this franchise though. Here are the films I like. I like the first film. I like the Sawyer Massacre because I'll include it in the franchise because it's worthy of that. I like TCM 2003, the remake. The beginning is okay. The beginning got a little grody for me though. Like at least the 2003 remake was classy in its grodiness, but the beginning was just kind of like, okay, we're just starting to feel a little like Rob Zombie Halloween 2. We're just going to be like gross and grunge to be gross and grunge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I know people hate me for it. I like Texas Chainsaw 3D. I really do. I know it's a bad movie, but then, I know, do your thing, cuz, is stupid, but, I like it. I don't know. I enjoy it for whatever reason. I have it on Blu-ray. I think it's a fun movie. I really do. But, yeah, going back to Sawyer Massacre, you had mentioned the characters. And there's something very specific I'm saving for the end of our conversation. Listen. The characters were incredibly well written, and I'm not just talking about, Jimmy and Allison and our set of main characters. I'm talking about the family with the two little girls, all of Allison's friends, all of Jimmy's friends. There was a very large. I will say I didn't expect that. I didn't expect
it was a stacked cast, guys.
I didn't expect there to be
a lot of people.
So many characters in this film. There were a ton of characters, and like you said, you genuinely felt terrible for all of them. It was just when the two little girls died, I was like.
That's what I mean. I was like, Steve, golly,
wow, we're really gonna go there. We're just gonna do this right now.
You let the mother just sit there and watch it all happen.
I know.
Shit.
It's terrible, man. But the protagonist characters were incredibly well written. Jimmy and Allison, I liked them. Once we kind of realized that they were the two main protagonists, I liked them trying to escape the house and trying to escape Leatherface.
Bro, they tried to escape 3 times.
They really did, yeah.
Got captured and tried to escape again.
Right.
I was like, how many more do you need to the point where it's like, fuck the friends, let's get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
J-Dad, you're not wrong. If Rob Zombie films a Texas Chainsaw remake, they'll need to install emergency showers at the theaters.
Emergency showers.
You really,
the chemical showers. You know the chemical showers that just spray your eyes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Could you imagine a Rob Zombie TCM film?
Oh God, dude! Don't say
you
yet.
You
are manifesting.
You want to talk
dangerous circumstance right now.
You want to talk dirty, wow.
Yeah.
But even so let's okay. I'm really glad that Steve got me to watch that episode of Merlot's movie Massacre because I picked up on bits and pieces of this, but I didn't put the whole puzzle together until after the fact. And again, admittedly, I've only seen the movie once. and I am excited to go back and rewatch it because there are so many hints to this throughout the movie, and I didn't pick up on it in its entirety. I picked up on some of it. Let's talk about the Sawyer family, because that's arguably the most interesting thing that they do here. First of all, I thought they handled Leatherface really, really well. Scotty Parkin did a great job playing him. Mm-hmm. We didn't see too much of him. I was a little, not worried, but I wondered how much Leatherface we would see. Because I think at this point...
It was like Leatherface was just like a fucking enemy in a video game that just spawned out of nowhere.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, he deadass just came out of the ether and just like, and I'm fucking you up.
He just kind of like randomly showed up, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like he would just be there, and that was scary. I liked it. That's a good thing. But I liked that we didn't dive too far into the Leatherface character. You know what I mean? Because we do that some in the new film.
Yeah,
not in the new film, in the original film, in Tobey Hooper's film, you know, when we see him kind of like freaking out in the kitchen, and he's like, when he's like licking his lips and he's like holding his head and he's rocking back and forth, and like we got to see some of the weirdness of Leatherface in that film. Mm-hmm. And I like that we kind of kept him ambiguous and weird and in the shadows, and he just like boom, he's there, you know, like somebody runs out of the house and boom, Leatherface is behind him with the chainsaw, or magically he shows up. We also didn't sit.
He straight up just showed up and knocked old girl's kneecaps out into oblivion. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. The one that got me.
Give her a shot.
You were talking about the gore. The one that really got me was when they were tied up on the thing behind, like their arms were up and they were tied up.
Mm-hmm.
When Leatherface cut the dude's skin off of his face while he was sitting there screaming, that was the one where I was like,
I knew that was going to happen. I knew it was going to be his face was going to get ripped off, because in the beginning
none of the gore got me as much as that one did. I was like, whoo.
Because in the beginning of the movie, old boy was like, I got to keep this face for my modeling career. I said, bro, your face is going to be on fat dude's fucking noggin.
He even said that, like,
minute 45.
So Leatherface wears 4 different masks in the movie, and I picked up on some of them. The one would, I forget who it's supposed to be. But the one, I actually thought to myself, I was like, that looks like the kill mask from the original TCM, but like an earlier version of it. And he was like, yeah, that was supposed to be an earlier version of the kill mask, like the chase mask in TCM with the bars on it, where he's sitting there like sticking his tongue in and out of it and stuff. You know, like and it was really, really cool to see that. I did pick up on that the first time. And did you notice that the masks were the people he had killed in the film? Like it was their faces. Yeah. Here's something crazy. And again, this goes to show the professionalism of.
Did he like get like the characters that died? Did he get them like, you know, like their face, like, you know? Did they like mold their face so that he can like make a mask out of it?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So he had said in that episode, and I feel like I remember him saying this before. He had hired an SFX artist like 2.5 years before they went to camera.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic happened, and everything happened, and then legit their FX artist pulled out like a month before they went to camera to film in Texas.
Yeah,
and he
pretty grimy.
I think he even told us
on your resume,
on our episode with Steve.
Yeah, he did.
But he was like, we never heard from her again, and like one of the actors, I forget which one it was, but he had his life cast done already for his skin mask, and she wouldn't get them to him, so like he had to drive all the way to Austin or wherever they were and get his face cast again, and like, but yes, they actually did cast their own, like they did like a life cast for them for the Leatherface masks.
You gotta think when they
look good. You can tell
when Steve told them like, "Hey, go get your face caster right there." I feel like the actors were already like, "Well, I'm fucking dying." Then, like, you know, like if you're getting your face casted, you know you're gonna die. Like your face is gonna be on old boy's noggin by like minute 32. So like, yeah, I can. That's like a funny thing where like you can just tell that yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna make it out of this movie.
Yeah. By the way, J-Did, I don't know what you're talking about, because you ain't getting banned from anywhere. Even if this channel does blow up,
Get banned
you're staying your ass right here. I don't know what.
Yeah, I highly doubt you'll get banned. I mean,
No. Okay, we would be the ones to ban him. Like, we're not gonna ban him.
oh yeah, I don't know.
Did you forget it's our channel, Miguel?
I kind of did.
Did you? We're not hired by anybody. We own it. We are Let's Talk Movies. All of us
Yeah,
together.
we're not the TikTokers that review movies. You know what I'm talking about, guys, with that lawsuit.
And we're moving on. No, but legit. There he is. There is Mr. Steve Merlo, right on time. We're in the
Hello.
middle of talking about the Sawyer Massacre. Listen, man. Since you're finally here, we've talked about kind of our overall thoughts, and I'll kind of recap them really quickly. Steve, my biggest compliment. I always like to start off our reviews with a biggest compliment about the film, and my biggest compliment to the film is, dude, it looks and feels like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, and not only does it look and feel like a TCM film, but I think a lot of fan films struggle with bringing something new to the table with these characters. You know, when you have an established IP and an established property, like, how do you not just tell the same story that's already been told? I think a lot of Halloween fan films out there struggle with that. You know what I mean? Not necessarily that. I mean, I think that the Sawyer Massacre and Dylan's New Nightmare and Never Hike Alone and you know It's Me Billy, like, those are all on a different playing field. But I think most fan films struggle with, what do you do with this established property? And Steve, you guys brought something new to the table with the Sawyer Massacre. Like, you literally made the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre more interesting, which is something that, like, that's a huge compliment, because that's something that I think a lot of sequels, even official sequels, fail to do. You know?
Yeah.
100%. So we really like the film. At least I did. Miguel may think it's... No, I'm kidding.
No,
No, he liked it. I'm
You
kidding.
made me think. You are here making me look like I fucking hated the movie. No,
I'm kidding.
I mean, I told if you want to go back and watch it, I mean, the pretty much what I said was, like, as someone who doesn't, particularly like the franchise, I can at least acknowledge the fact that you really gave the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre its just due. Like, by far, I felt just as grimy, I felt just as sweaty in my ass, and you made everyone just as fucking helpless in this movie. So,
Yeah.
bravo! I had a lot of compliments in regards to your actors. Like, great job on their
100%.
Your casting choices, pretty good, man.
Yes, you really, really did a fantastic job with your casting. And yeah, and I heard you say that. Steve said everybody wants him to make a sequel. I went back and I listened to that after we talked last night. I went back and listened to that episode. I didn't make it through the whole thing. I made it through about an hour and a half. I still had like a half hour or so left, but really interesting information on there. And yeah, I see, and this is like, please don't take this the wrong way, Steve. I would appreciate a sequel. Like, I would 100% watch it. But at the same time, like, it doesn't even need a sequel. You know what I mean? Like, it was a well enough contained story in and of itself that I don't feel like it needs a sequel. Like, its sequel is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know what I mean? So, like, and I say that, like, that sounds bad. Like, I don't want you to make a sequel. It wasn't good. That's not what I mean. I mean, it was done so well that, like, it doesn't need one. You know what I mean? It's not necessary. So, and we're getting to the ending. I don't know if Miguel picked up on it. I picked up on a little bit of it. I didn't, when you said it on Movie Massacre, I was like, I didn't get the whole thing. I was like, I didn't understand all of that. But really quickly, we talked about the protagonist characters. Let's talk about the Sawyers.
Okay,
That's where things got a little bit interesting. I really, really enjoyed, I don't know about other people, I enjoyed what you did with Drayton. I really did.
Drayton, oh boy, it was like my grandpa. Or is that who I'm thinking of?
No, that was
No.
Rex. The bigger guy with
Rex,
the long hair
Rex.
was Rex, right?
Rex is probably one of my favorites. I'll say
Drayton
that right
is
now.
Drayton's the older brother in the original film, who's like,
Okay.
"You broke the damn door!" like that.
Yeah, okay.
That's Drayton. But here's what I liked. you did something very unexpected with Drayton's character. I expected something very specific about Drayton going into it, and I was like, huh, this is interesting. Drayton had a little bit of a moral compass. Like, he wasn't always a psycho freak that wanted to kill people and eat them. Like he wasn't always that guy. You know what I mean? Like, his family, he differed from his family. Even when they're talking about, the grandmother dying, and when him and Rex are kind of having that long conversation. I thought that was really interesting. Like, he wasn't necessarily on board with what they were doing. And I know that was a risk, like you just said, but like it paid off. Like, it was really, I liked it. I thought it was really, really cool. And it made Rex even more of a villain, and something, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it kind of heightened Rex's character. I mean, what did you think of Drayton being kind of like unsure of doing this and like what they were doing? And
I would say this: it made Rex look even more of a fucking person, as someone that I absolutely hated. I hated every time Drayton was like, "I got this." so my daddy, he's got everything you need, and he would just think of the most random things ever. Like, old boy just needed bulbs, and he says, "My daddy got it."
I know, yeah.
And then like, we're going camping. My daddy got firewood. I'm like, bro, and like Drayton's sitting here like, no, the fuck we don't.
Yeah.
Have any of that?
Well, you could tell though that Drayton he didn't want to do this. Like,
no, not really.
Part of me, like, I don't. Steve, forgive me. Is this 6 years ahead of? Is this 6 years ahead of the original TCM film? So this would have been what, 1968? I guess would have been the year. But like, I don't know. I think I kind of chalked it up with Drayton because it's a very stark contrast between how you see Drayton in the Sawyer Massacre and how you see Drayton in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because 8 years. Okay, 8 years. I think it's interesting, like, Drayton was on board in the original TCM. He was literally participating in it. You know what I mean? And I think the deal is when you tell yourself, it's like when somebody says they tell themselves a lie for so long that it becomes the truth. I think when you're around that much insanity for so long, it just becomes your way of life. And I think he didn't really want to kill people and eat them, and he didn't want to do the other thing that we're about to talk about in a minute, which, Steve, you know what I'm talking about. But I think it just, because he even says, it's never going to be the way it was before and stuff like that. And I think Drayton just kind of fell into the madness and the insanity over that 8 years between the Sawyer Massacre and between the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I really liked what you did with that character. I really liked Rex. I thought Rex, I hated him as a person. I thought he was a garbage human being, but the character was written really well. Yeah, that's how you know the character is written well.
You did a good job, because you made me fucking hate that guy so fucking much. I was like,
you made me hate him, but all of the protagonist characters, I was like, I feel so bad for them. Like, they're you know what I mean?
Yeah, I could be a fucking diabetic, and I'd be like, I need insulin, and Rex would be like, my daddy's a doctor. He got me. Go to his house. Go up the road to the transformer, and then you find the abandoned house where you'll get some insulin. I was like, bro, my man's a goddamn Costco at that point. Like, I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, right. It was awesome, man. It was really well done, the way you handled that with the family. Now, so here's the deal. Here's the deal.
My daddy.
Steve asked about the ending. So, what's up, Gory Tiger? Good to have you, man.
Howdy.
So here's the deal. Miguel, I'm going to ask you first, because I've already listened to Steve explain this, and when he said it, I was like...
Were they trying to breed Allison?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that.
I didn't...
That. Wait, did she... I think Daddy was like... Here, put her on my lap, or something like that, or I thought I heard something.
No, you mean Grandpa when
Grandpa was like, here, put, or something like that, or some bullshit. Like, Grandpa was trying to like get a baby out of Allison, right?
He was trying to get some. Yeah,
that was I caught that shit quick. and then whenever old girl was so at the very end where it runs to like it closes up to Allison and she's like literally like she looks so defeated and she's literally dead ass like I'm about to raise this child and then die or something like that and then the baby started crying. I was like, there's definitely a baby right there.
Well, let me say this. I actually, when I watched it, and Steve, I've said this
First try, I caught
a few times now. I know you caught it. Good for you. Admittedly, I've only seen it once, and I want to go back and rewatch it now so bad because I actually rewound that long dialogue scene between Rex and Drayton when they're at the gas station because I was like, what the hell are they talking about? Like, it took me, like, I had to really think about it for a little bit. And I was kind of like, okay, like, I think my head, when I watched it, my head was so into the idea of, like, okay, this is going to show how they're going to become cannibals. Like, what circumstances led them to becoming cannibals and to having this human meat thing going on. Like, that was, and that was nothing that you said or nothing that the trailer showed. Like, that was just in my head when I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, this is gonna show how they became cannibals. Like, I get it. And then when we, like, slowly throughout the film, like, the cannibalism thing kind of took a back seat a little bit, which was fine, but it kind of, like, I think I got bits and pieces of it. And when I heard the baby cry at the end, when she's like, when you see her realizing that Leatherface is running towards them, and we don't even see him, we just hear the chainsaw getting closer, and then the baby cry. I was just kind of like, what? What? Like, I rewound it again, and I was like, did I miss? Like, I was like, did I miss something? Like, what did I miss? And then I was like, she's pregnant. She's pregnant because she even said, if I remember correctly, she said something about her wanting to run away. Like, they kept talking about them running away, obviously running away to get away from Texas. But
for some reason, it was Canada.
When they were talking about going to Canada and things like that. Like, I was like, okay, maybe because she's pregnant. I mean, we hear that happening all the time. Families disowning younger people if they're not married and things like that if they get pregnant and stuff like you hear that all the time. Like, that's a common thing in society, unfortunately. But I was like, okay, she's pregnant, and that's like that's so sad. She's gonna die pregnant. But when I listened to your show and you actually, like, it clicked in my head when Grandpa was like, "You're very strong," and stuff like that, and when he says, like, "You'll carry well" and stuff, when it clicked, I was like, oh, I was like, oh, whoa, that made me uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
That's what clicked for me. Was
it
like,
just clicked in my head, and I was
yeah,
like,
that right
whoa.
there is what clicked when he said you'll carry strong or something like that, or like you're strong or something. You'll be able to like carry something. And I was like, hey, yo, dog, this is worse than the original. The original, they just wanted to kill her. This one, old granddaddy wanted some of that. I was like, oh god.
Well, and that makes it interesting too, because it's also like, okay, why did they not want to kill Sally then? First of all, a question is, like, a question looking at the original TCM is, where is Rex? Is he dead? Is he just not there? Like, is he not there during the events of the original TCM film? Like, which is fine. Like, that's fine. Keep that ambiguous. Like, that's cool. But also, first of all, why were they trying to kill Sally then? You know what I mean? That's interesting. Like, why kill Sally? Why weren't they trying to impregnate Sally? Because there wasn't a baby around. You know what I mean? And Sally was a young, good-looking girl. Like, they very easily could have, but they were trying to kill Sally. They were trying to get Grandpa to hit her, and he couldn't do it because he's basically a corpse. You know, stuff like that. Like, that was interesting. And the fact.
So wait,
that,
what happened? I'm curious as to what happened to the baby then. Like, what's going on?
I don't know. Maybe
no
it died,
the
because they even said, like, in that. And again, it was something I didn't pick up on until after the fact. But when Rex says we have a problem, the last one didn't make it to 5 months or something. I forget the exact line, but it's something like that. And I was like, Oh, like it's like in a movie when somebody realizes something and it's like they see like all of the events of what happened like flash before their eyes. I was just like, oh, I get it
Yeah.
now. It's like, oh. And the fact that it's Leatherface's child makes me incredibly uncomfortable because the thought of Leatherface, yeah, exactly. It's just like, well, and listen, Steve, that's the thing. My throat keeps getting really dry.
Probably after talking about the fucking.
He said that's actually a very cool interpretation. Who's to say it couldn't be true? And that's the thing. There's so many possibilities with your story and how you presented it. That's the mark of a good story. That's the mark of a good film when it becomes a think piece and you can examine it in different ways and look at it in different ways. And I really, really liked what you did with this film. I did. I never felt disengaged. I never felt like,
Yeah, honestly, same.
I never
didn't
felt
find
bored
myself-
with it.
yeah.
You know, I was intrigued the entire time.
Some horror movies, I'm dead ass just like, all right, let's just get to the
Let's
meat
get to
and
the kill.
potatoes.
You know,
Get to the meat and potatoes, and then with this one, dog, I was like, all right, bro, I gotta catch up with all this stuff because I know exactly. You said something in and when we interviewed that there was something in this fucking movie, and I wanted to make sure I caught it. Luckily, I caught it. But like, yeah, I just want like I was actually in tune with this entire movie, and I gotta say I'm pretty impressed. That's the one that got me rolling on the floor a couple minutes ago.
Oh.
I was gone. I was like,
Jada said
oh
Grandpa
my
had those
God.
semen demons for Alice.
Oh my God.
But
Bro.
Steve, didn't you say it was Leatherface's child? It wasn't Grandpa's, right? Because isn't Grandpa too old? Isn't that why he was sitting there saying too old when he was sitting there like rocking in his chair or something? I feel like that was what he meant by that, unless I misunderstood that. I don't know. Jada said Sawyer fam sells babies to the Illuminati. Duh. Duh. Like,
I mean, that makes sense.
why wouldn't the Illuminati want weird inbred children? I mean, come on. Duh.
I mean, if you think about it, it's the same premise as like you know how like in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it was like a theme of like how we were treating how Leatherface was treating the humans was pretty much the same way they were treating like livestock.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what's who's to say that like breeding only to give to another higher power is the same? You know what I mean?
Well, and it's very like, you know, and that's why I thought Drayton saying it'll never be the same, like because their grandmother had died and stuff like that. Like, I thought that was an interesting line because even if you're talking about the cannibalism thing, like the idea of them trying to keep their bloodline going, like obviously that is, like that's something that matters to them. They want to keep their bloodline going. They want to keep their family going. And if there's only the hitchhiker and Drayton and Rex and Leatherface and Grandpa left, they can't do that because that's 5 dudes. You know what I mean? So, like, obviously they need somebody to breed with. And not only were they using them as meat, as food, but they were also using them to rape them and breed them too, which is...
See, that's why
bonkers. Like, it's something
why-
I would have never expected for this film. Ever. But it worked. It was great.
That's why I don't particularly like Texas Chainsaw franchise because they go so out of pocket with this shit, dog.
So it's
hardcore. But I can like acknowledge and admire the fact that some people like find this like this. That's horror for me right there. Like
Right.
this is pure
That's
horror,
scary.
which is why I don't want.
That's scary.
Why I don't particularly enjoy watching it over and
Yeah.
over. It's not something that I want to watch like again and again. But like Jesus Christ, man, that look, man, the things you put in this movie were so out of pocket. I was like, fuck. I'll admit, man, you swung for the fences.
It was good. It was
Yeah.
really good, man. He said, yeah, Leatherface, but the too old line was Grandpa telling Leatherface that Dixie is too old to breed with. Oh, okay. So he was saying that the woman was too old to breed with and they had to find someone. Okay. Yeah. Because I was kind of like,
Bro.
on first watch, when I first heard Grandpa say the whole, "Oh, you're very strong," that line, I was kind of like, that's an odd thing to say. You know what I mean? Like that. Like if you're looking at it from just solely the cannibalism angle, which I was. That was in the forefront of my mind.
What were you thinking? Like, oh, her meat's gonna be tender.
I know, like it was just kind of like I was
like that.
That's an odd thing to say to someone that you're torturing. Like, you know, like that was just like it didn't.
Nah, that's pretty much on the notes.
It didn't click until like I finally put it all together after the fact, after hearing you and stuff, and I was like, oh, it's like, oh, okay, like that is very smart, but also very uncomfortable too, you know. So I mean, it was great, man. J-Ded said, I've always thought that that's why Leatherface wears female faces sometimes. The other male family members probably abused him. Well, of course, and oh, you mean like do we mean abused him? Because of course they abuse him, or do we mean like they abuse him?
Stop, dog. You gotta stop with that shit. I don't want. Look, bro, you already. Come on, man.
Steve, we have the sequel idea right now.
No, come on, man. This shit already grimy as fuck. But in a good way, Steve. Like, man, like your movie's really good. It's just so grimy for me, man. It's just like, ugh. That's a lot. I don't know, man.
Oh, J-Ded.
Holy crap. Oh my god.
Oh, J-Ded, you just killed me.
Here, let me ask you this. What was...
I can't get it out of my mind, dude. It's all I'm seeing.
You better get this shit out of your mind right now, because I'm done talking about that.
Oh, okay. I'm moving on.
Tell me this. What was the worst death that was in this movie for you?
Oh, I already told you. The scene that really... The one that got me... the one that really truly got me was when he cut the dude's face off while he was still alive and sitting there screaming. That one was like... that was bad. And also, the two little girls was bad. Even though you didn't see a single thing that happened, you watched their mother watch them get killed with a chainsaw. And that's just... The idea of that is just like...
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking. Like, that's awful, you know?
Yeah. Mine was pretty much... what was Allison's friend?
I have the cast up here.
Well, Allison's friend,
I think it was Lorraine. I think
it's Lorraine.
I'm not 100% sure. I don't know.
Look,
there were a lot of characters. Forgive me. I don't remember there.
Look, Allison's friend, the one that screamed for like 15 minutes, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then her final death was pretty much getting crushed by a fucking vice. I was like, bro, like you can keep hearing it like turn, and you hear. I was like, oh, dog, dude. I look, man, I love Joe's Crab Shack. You can't ruin that for me, man. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, Joe, Joe, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm reading a comment. That's why I'm... Steve, another thing that I really enjoyed about the relationship between the Sawyer fam is that, like, you kind of get the idea that there's too many chefs in the kitchen, you know? Like, the hitchhiker is just being the hitchhiker, and obviously he's the youngest brother. I've always taken it that Leatherface was the hitchhiker's older brother, if I'm correct. I feel like I'm correct in that.
You thought that the hitchhiker was the older brother of Leatherface?
No, I think Leatherface is the older brother. I think the hitchhiker is the youngest one.
I'd agree.
I think he's the youngest one. But there's a very obvious shift from when Drayton is talking to the hitchhiker to when Drayton is talking to Rex, because Drayton when he's talking to the hitchhiker is still very like, look what you did, you idiot, like that kind of like that whole you know, he's the dominant male in that situation. But the minute that Rex showed up in the truck, Drayton backed down and Drayton became the submissive one. And that was really, really cool. I thought that was pretty that was very interesting. That was one of the points in the film where I was like, ooh, okay. I was like,
Rex got that big dick energy.
I was like, okay, he really, So, listen, in closing, man, the Sawyer Massacre is definitely one of these top tier. It's up there with the Never Hike Alone and the It's Me Billy, and you know, it's up there with those top tier fan films, man. I mean, you did an incredible job adding to the lore of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You did an incredible job bringing new life to these characters and bringing us new characters, and you know, kind of re-diving into this world that has been, even for studios, incredibly difficult to ever recapture. And I commend you for that, man. Really, really spectacular job to your cast and crew. Yeah, it was fantastic, man. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, each one of you deserves like a good solid cold beer, man. That shit was a good movie. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
And it seems like you guys are still like hanging around. If I'm not mistaken, weren't some of your cast like commenting in the video below, like in the comment section on YouTube? I feel like some of them were talking, and like that shows that how much they loved being a part of the crew. So I mean, you guys had a solid crew, and that's probably one of the more important aspects of the movie, and that's probably why it
Right.
translates to how well this movie is put together. You had a decent crew, and accomplishing what a lot of studios could not do, man.
Yes,
Like really.
I completely agree. I think
So,
you accomplished something that many people have tried. I mean, it's a hard film to recreate the magic of. It really is. It's like it's the same way that
legally.
yes, but also in the look and the feel of it. It's a very
Yeah.
hard and I'll admit that the 2003 remake is very much its own thing. It does not feel exactly like the original film did. It's got elements of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely a different feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at this new at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and when you look at Texas Chainsaw 3D, they all do their best to try to capture that original magic, but it just always fails. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, and this is again, someone might think I'm crazy, but of all of the quote unquote official sequels, even though, dude, I think this is more official than maybe any other sequel in the franchise. I think that out of all of the official sequels, Texas Chainsaw 3D did the best of recapturing it, and that might be sinful to say for horror fans, but I did. I mean, I thought it made sense with with the opening scene and kind of seeing what happened. I mean, it felt the most connected to the original than any of the other sequels did. So spectacular job to Steve and to the cast and crew of the Sawyer Massacre. Listen, if you have not already gone and checked it out on YouTube, please, 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 please. I think they're nearing. I don't even know. Let me see. What are they nearing now, views wise? Sawyer Massacre. Let me see. They're viewing, or they're nearing 34,000 views, which is really, really, really cool. So if you haven't already, please go leave them a like. I just did. It's up to 878 likes. Leave them a like, check them out, and go show them some support because they did a really, really great job. And again, all of these people that, when you look at what Vincent DeSandy has done with Never Hike Alone, when you look at what Cecil Laird is doing with Dylan's New Nightmare, and now Steve with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Dave McRae and Bruce Dale with It's Me, Billy, there are so many incredible horror franchises that are being revitalized through these fan films, which actually brings us, interestingly enough, to our next topic of the night, because
I'll say this though, and I'll end with this. I gotta say, guys, those are people, horror fan community. Tell me if you agree with this. Do you feel that horror movies from the studios have become too much cinematic, that it's the fan films that are going to actually like revitalize the actual horror storytelling aspects that we've all like come to love? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think that I think if you can raise the budget, fan films can do things that studio-backed things can't do. I do. I think I think there are certain things that studio-backed things will never have the balls to do, because either it doesn't set up a sequel, or it's not.
Like
It's an
use
MPAA.
Leatherface to breed
I know,
innocent
right?
young girl,
Or it's an MPAA thing.
yeah.
If you can get around the legal jargon of doing a fan film, it can be really cool. I think there was a Halloween one that was slated to come out before Halloween 2018, and I think it got shut down by Universal or by a studio because they were like, nope, Can't do it. We're already
far
doing
gone.
it. Like, we're already doing a sequel to Halloween. You can't do that. You know?
Pretty much, man. That's
So-
how it works. Like if a writer can't get a movie going like themselves or like get a sponsor for a movie, they end up just selling it to a studio in hopes that it gets produced. And if it doesn't, it just sits on a fucking shelf because they own the rights to it. That's usually how great movies end up in a vault.
Yeah.
Because the studio will buy it out and be like, man, we
Yeah.
got a better idea.
Yes, Jaded, I agree with that. Horror movies from studios have to check way too many boxes. They want to appeal to a larger audience while ignoring the horror fans. Yes, and I think you have to find that balance. And that's where I think they have found a balance with a lot of these fan films. In that, yes, you're appealing to horror fans because you're giving them the things that studios won't give them. But you're also appealing to larger audiences because it's like, okay, how do we still drive the narrative forward? It's like the perfect blend of fan service and still telling your own unique story. And that's why I think I give the Blumhouse Halloween trilogy a little bit of slack, because it's like, okay, look at what they were trying to do. Like, that's a difficult thing to do. That's not easy, you know? It's not easy to appease everybody, and you're never going to appease everybody. But you know, they're doing a really fantastic job. And like I said, that kind of brings us into our next news story of the night. We got our very first images from Dylan's New Nightmare, which is the unofficial sequel to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, obviously, I think it goes without question in saying that, obviously, when I saw this image drop this morning, I was sitting at my desk at work, and I got cold chills. Like, my mouth dropped, and I sat and looked at my phone for a minute, and I literally had chills going up and down my body. I listened to Dave McRae and Cecil Laird kind of talk through their debriefing session of how the production of Dylan's New Nightmare went. Of course, I listen to Dave's channel pretty frequently, and I knew he was in Phoenix. He had finally gotten in the States after being on hold because of COVID and, you know, travel bans and travel advisories and all that stuff. He finally made it down to the States to don the glove and the fedora to play Freddy Krueger. And when this image dropped this morning, I had kind of forgotten. I remember them saying, hey, we're going to drop the first image of Dave and first images of Miguel Hughes and the cast from Dylan's New Nightmare, and I was just like, okay, like, you know, cool, and I've forgotten about it, even though it was really interesting to hear Dave and Cecil kind of debrief and talk about it. But I gotta tell you, when this image dropped this morning of Dave McRae in the Freddy makeup, my jaw hit the floor.
Shit looks good, man.
This looks freaking credible.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's the cheekbone for me.
It's the cheekbones, it's the curved nose, it's the wetness of the skin, it's the burned fedora, it's the ear that's kind of chopped off and burned. It's everything. It gives me major part 2 vibes, which is my favorite Freddy look, where he's got kind of the witch nose, and like he looks very witchy in that film. He looks really mean and freaky. But it's also got something different. And here's another image as well.
God damn, you didn't show me that one.
Yeah, that's a new one.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and I think what I like about this, and what I like about what they're doing, and David kind of talked about this in his debrief with Cecil. The thing that's interesting about what they're doing with Dylan's New Nightmare is you have to remember, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, technically, yes, if you go back and watch New Nightmare, it's Robert Englund playing Freddy. Like, it is. But you have to remember, Freddy is his own entity in New Nightmare. It's not Robert Englund playing Freddy. And Dave had said that. He was like, I didn't set out to do a Robert Englund impression with my version of Freddy Krueger. I set out to play Freddy Krueger. Like, that's it. It's not supposed to look like Robert Englund. It's not supposed to be Robert Englund. It's supposed to be Freddy, purely and simply Freddy. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that this just looks like Freddy. It wasn't made to look like Robert Englund. It's different. It's unique. It's like a combination of a few different looks. I mean, look at the right eye, the way the eye looks really sunken in. And, you know, I don't know. There's something about it that's really, really, really creepy. You can't even tell it's Dave under there. Like, you really can't.
No, you really cannot.
Everything from the teeth to the sweater to the hat. To the eyes,
bro. It's also like the different colors on both sides of his face. You got the harsh, dark red of
right,
which emphasizes the burnt skin, and then you got the eerie like blue on the other side, like you know, just showing the shadowy dreams that he's like, you know, about to invade. Like, holy shit, dude.
Well, and I really, really love the fact that they used that red and green hue on either side, because if you go back and, you know, we talked about this, we're in the middle of taking a deep dive into Elm Street franchise. Like, you know, Wes Craven had said he chose red and green because red and green are the two colors, like scientifically, that clash with the human retina. Like, you physically cannot... they're the two, you can see them next to each other, but like they're two colors that it's really difficult to see them next to each other. And it was supposed to be kind of just another disorienting thing about Freddy Krueger. What's going on, Chocolate Ice? That looks good. Yeah, man, it looks incredible. Definitely reminds me of Nightmare 2 as well.
Does. It looks good, man. Like, bro, like old boy spent hours on that chair.
Yeah,
it looked like it.
I forget the makeup artist's name, but whoever she is, I mean, she killed it. I think she won like one of the seasons of Face Off and stuff like that. Like, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, it looks fantastic. And you know, if you've watched Dave's channel for any amount of time, you know how animated Dave can be, and you know how, I mean, I've never seen him on camera act, but even just listening to him do the voices and listening to him just be Dave, like, I feel like he's going to bring a lot of emotion and a lot of character and a lot of depth to that role. I think it could be really cool. Yeah, I think you're right. I think her first name is Nora. It's Nora Hughes or Nora something. I wish I could remember. Shout out to Nora. We're just going to say Nora. Shout out to Nora. Legit. J-Dead City's got to go. See you, man. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you later, buddy.
Much love.
But yeah, it looks incredible. And we also got the very first image of Miko Hughes himself returning to play Dylan. Miko Hughes, obviously, who was the original kid playing Heather Langenkamp's son in not only Nightmare, but he also played the kid in Kindergarten Cop. I mean, he was in Apollo 13. He was the kid in Pet Sematary. I mean, Miko Hughes has done a lot, and the fact that they got him back to play Dylan again is really, really cool. Again, it can attest to how legit of a story this is going to be. And unlike the Sawyer Massacre, which we talked about a few minutes ago, you know, I was about to make a point with that, and I completely forget what I was about to say. Like the Sawyer Massacre, and that was it. I just blanked. Completely forgot. It's kind of started reading. Nora Hewitt. Yes, shout out to Nora Hewitt. That is her name. Steve said, I actually chatted with her at one point to possibly do SFX on TSM. That was cool, man. That's awesome.
She's pretty fucking talented, dog.
By the way, Steve,
I love Face Off, by the way, that show.
Yeah, that was a cool show. Listen, Steve, your whole FX story about like the one pulling out like a month before you guys went to camera, that sucks, dude, but it turned out really, really well. Like, for having to throw all of that together in like a month or a month and a half or something like that, I think it looked really, really good, like, for your end result. So I mean, that I think for
we talked about one of your posters too, and how you were able to capture like the fucking essence of the mask. I was like, oh damn, dude, bravo to you two. Granted, that giant obstacle, that speed bump that you encountered right there,
right?
Your FX, your special effects throughout that entire movie, pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, Kindergarten Cop. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. Yeah, man. But seriously, I don't know where I was about to go with that last point. I completely.
Are you trying to? Are you trying to like talk about like the legacies of the legacy that these characters have in a new night in this Wes Craven movie?
No, I was getting ready to say something about Miko Hughes, but I literally I completely forgot what
It's
I was
just that
gonna say.
Nico's been in so many fucking films, and like his legacy and the horror franchise, I'm sure, is well known, and just in Hollywood in general, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So
Well,
it's pretty cool to have that notable character in this fan film, if that, yeah.
right. I know what I was going to say. Unlike the Sawyer Massacre, this will not be a feature if I'm correct. I believe this will be a short. But that leaves it open for other chapters.
Mm-hmm.
And again, who's to say, similarly to the Sawyer Massacre, I might watch Dylan's New Nightmare and say, you know what? It's perfect as it is. It doesn't need a sequel. It's literally, it works as its own standalone thing. You don't need any more. It works. I felt that way about Sawyer Massacre. I even felt that way about Never Hike Alone, although I really like what Vince is doing with Never Hike Alone and kind of these different entries and things like that. Yeah, man, I'm really, really excited for Dylan's New Nightmare. It's just another testament to how much horror is alive and how much fan films can bring these stories and these characters and these properties back to life in new and exciting ways. Because let's be honest, I mean, this is the official sequel to New Nightmare. It is. I mean, come on. You got Miko Hughes. Like, no studio is ever going to say, you know what? Let's make a sequel to Wes Craven's New... Like, nobody's going to do that. You know what I mean? So I'm super thankful and I'm super glad that we got... that we're getting not only Dave as Freddy, which is absolutely incredible, but also... but we're also getting, Cecil and this incredible crew that's working on it and trying to bring this story back to life in a new and exciting way. So, props to them. It sounds like they had a really, really great time filming this thing. And I'm really, really excited to see the final product. So, again, the Indiegogo campaign is still live for Dylan's New Nightmare. Go support them. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, all of that. All that stuff. You know how to support people at this point. So,
Do we really though?
do you know how to support people other than selling your body on the street? I mean, let's be honest. Chocolate Ice said, imagine if Blumhouse made one more Nightmare film and they go the Halloween route and Robert Englund comes back to play Freddy again. Okay, Chocolate, I don't want to disappoint you, buddy.
Brad doesn't want Robert Englund to come back as Freddy. I'm going to say that right now.
I don't want Robert Englund to come back. And I love Robert Englund. That is not a knock against Robert Englund. Robert will always be Freddy. He will always be the iconic Freddy. In the same way that Nick Castle is always going to be Michael Myers. And Kane Hodder is always going to be Jason. But I feel like for Nightmare to move on and for Nightmare to become what it can be in a new era, I think it's really, really important that they do cast somebody new because
look how well James Jude Courtney handled Michael Myers.
Right, and I love James Jude Courtney as Michael. Yeah. He's arguably my favorite Michael in the entire franchise. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't know. For me, it's probably James Jude, Nick Castle, Tyler Mane. That's probably my favorites. But yeah, I think if you're gonna do, I'm down with. That's actually kind of a little bit of a lead into our next story. I'm down with Blumhouse doing Nightmare. Like, that's fine, but I hope they go with a new actor. Maybe even go with like a relatively unknown actor to portray Freddy. I think that could be interesting. You know what I mean? Chocolate says, seeing Robert again would be dope. Like, he's the only Freddy. Like, you can't replace him. And Robert even said he wants Kevin Bacon to replace him. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, Kevin Bacon would actually be a decent Freddy. I mean, I get it. And I know a lot of people would disagree with me. And a lot of people would be like, no way.
If Kevin Bacon does Freddy, I swear to God, if you don't get a Footloose dancing in one of his fucking nightmares.
One of the nightmares is Footloose. Like, that's one of the nightmares. But yeah, man, I think Robert's time is done. I do. And again, that's nothing against him. I think Robert is great. I think he's an awesome dude. We just saw him at Scarefest in October, but I don't know, man. I think his time as Freddy is done. I do, and that's not a knock against him. I love him, but I think it's time to give the reins to somebody else. Which brings us into our next news story of the night. Again, big agenda. We're about halfway there, and some of this stuff is going to go a little bit quicker now. We're in the vast majority of the show.
Yeah, our gears are lubed up now.
Yeah, we are. We're all lubed up and ready to go. All souped up and ready to go. But dooby dooby doo pop boop doop. No. So
he is an oldies band on.
I really am.
Now.
I'm feeling the oldies tonight. You can't knock me for that. I'm feeling it.
Bro, I can't get over the place.
So the news broke a couple of days ago, about a week ago, that James Wan and Jason Blum are in talks to merge Blumhouse and Atomic Monkey Pictures into one, Avengers level horror production company. Now, here's what we know. I don't believe that. I don't know. I don't think that they're going to actually change the names of the companies, or that they're not going to be individual entities. I think they're still going to work as two different companies, but all of the behind the scenes stuff is going to be linked. So it's basically just going to be this massive horror powerhouse, which is kind of cool in a way. So this story is on Bloody Disgusting right now. I think Variety broke the original news. James Wan and Jason Blum in talks to merge their companies into one mega horror powerhouse. A mere 24 hours after it was announced that Walter Hamada is in charge of a brand new horror venture over at Paramount, which is a whole other topic in and of itself that we're not going to talk about tonight. Walter Hamada literally said peace out to DC and went over and started talking horror, which listen, Walter Hamada's got, he's got some horror flicks under his belt. He's got the Friday the 13th reboot. He's got the Elm Street reboot. He's got the It films. He's got some stuff under his belt. He could make that work. Probably a little bit better than DC. More huge horror news in the horror world has dropped tonight. Variety reports that James Wan and Jason Blum are in advanced talks to merge Wan's Atomic Monster and Blum's Blumhouse Productions, the two horror titans looking to form what Variety is describing as a mega house of chills and thrills over at Universal Pictures. Variety also notes Blumhouse, known for its low-budget approach to terror, is currently under a first look deal with Universal, which would extend to Atomic Monster as long as the deal closes. Wan's first look deal with Warner Brothers ended early this year after nearly a decade. The New York Times first reported the news, with Wan telling the outlet, "We really do complement each other, yin and yang, which is part of what makes this so exciting." How exactly will all of this work? Variety details. After merging, the parties expect that Atomic Monster and Blumhouse will continue to operate as separate labels. This is the important thing, with each maintaining its own creative autonomy and brand identity. Atomic Monster is expecting to utilize the existing Blumhouse infrastructure to further scale their activities in film, TV, and new content areas.
We just want your money.
I know. Well, it is kind of. It's like two different people, but they share a bank account, basically. And they share like a resource pool, for all the behind the scenes stuff. They also hope to expand into horror-related games, live entertainment, and audio. The New York Times reports indicates that Blumhouse and Atomic Monster are already considering a sequel to next year's Megan, which looks primed for box office success. It really does. It looks great. Looks really good.
The Megan trailer caught me off guard. When old girl was just like walking, all of a sudden the spider crawl, I was like,
it looks really good, man. Good night, Rosalia. We'll talk to you soon, okay? Take it easy. Sleep tight. Where was I? Where's my screen? There it is. Furthermore, Blum is pushing for Blumhouse to make at least 8 horror movies for release in theaters each year, up from 3 or 4 it has historically delivered. That's a lot of films. That's a lot. That's a lot going on.
Film.
Yes.
That is a whole lot of films.
And he wants to make another slate of flicks for Peacock, NBC Universal streaming service. Blumhouse also makes television series. Long story short, the horror business is absolutely booming right now, and 2 of its major forces are about to help make the genre even better. Exciting times, to say the least. So that is the story. Jason Blum and James Wan are merging, basically. They're merging not necessarily their companies, but they're merging the resources and the funding, I guess, from Universal of their companies to to try and make something pretty cool. Listen, 8 films a year, that's a lot. That's a
Hey,
lot on
well,
your docket,
that's
which
that's
it's
more content
possible.
for us.
Right. I mean, it's possible and it's really, really cool. But it's just a lot, like that seems a lot. But if you split it, honestly, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess you could take that 2 separate ways. Is Atomic Monkey going to release 8 films a year and Blumhouse is going to release 8 a year? Or is it going to be a combined effort where it's like both of them are going to release like 4 and 4 type thing? You know what I mean?
Movies.
That's a lot of films a year.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be
So
8.
I
It
think
has
it
to
could
be
be
8.
great because James Wan is a really, really, really cool director and a really, really cool creative. I'll be interested to see what comes of that. I think it could be a really cool unison and a really cool partnership. The first thing that came to mind actually is what's funny. We just talked about Elm Street. Elm Street was the very first thing that came to mind
When
'cause
you
I
read
was
this,
yeah, well, because I was like, I mean, could you imagine how cool would that be if they teamed up? I mean, A24's already got Friday. Universal just ended as far as we know, Universal just ended their ownership with Halloween. You could. I know a lot of people have said like give Elm Street to a different studio and a different set of creatives, but I'd be down for it to go to James Wan and Jason Blum. I think they would do a really good job with it. I think that with Elm Street, it has to be taken from the perspective of
a Freddy.
of like a like a mystery thriller type film. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you can still have the slasher elements. You can still make it. It's still got to be Elm Street at the end of the day. But I think you could do something really, really interesting. Whether it was a streaming show, whether it was a series on like an HBO Max, or obviously it would be on Peacock if it's Universal. But there's many possibilities, and of course,
I want superpowers back.
yeah, well, and like you have The Purge and you have Halloween, but I really like that Blumhouse does do original films too. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it'll be a very unique partnership, and I'm really excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah, same, man. I mean, well, from what we got with everything else, especially because I'll be honest, James Wan's installment of Malignant is probably one of my favorite out of James Wan, honestly.
Yes.
And that was definitely like somewhat of a thriller at that point. It was a hell of a ride to watch that entire movie, and just seeing that and knowing what Blumhouse has had to offer for Halloween, like if I'm just going off of those 2 movies,
Yep.
I'd say I would feel I can say that I feel comfortable with the direction that they're going. Now to say that if you want 16 movies, that's diminished quality right there.
That's a lot. I don't know. That's a lot.
I would go with like at least I would definitely say 8 movies between the 2 studios, so like 4 and 4. Just that those 4 movies have a bigger budget than you would say, and
Right.
you know what I mean, which would definitely help the storyline or whatever their goals are of each movie that they want to announce. But yeah, man, like 8 movies, Jesus Christ, man, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
What is that? That's like 2 movies every quarter, I'd say. Fuck, dude.
It's a big undertaking, but I mean, you could do it if you had the resources and if you really put the. It's like when Freddy looks at Jesse and he's like, "You got what is he? You got the body, I got the brains," like that kind of thing. I feel like that's how James Wan and Jason Blum are going to be with each other.
I got the brains. Yeah,
but yeah, man, it's a cool partnership, and I'm really excited to see what comes of it.
As am I.
So we've reached the point in the show. Our horror news is done. Last couple of stories before we get out of here. We're moving into Marvel. Finally, we have missed talking about Marvel on the show. We really, really have. And Miguel's on the phone apparently. No, I'm kidding. We've been deep into our Oktoberfest event. We had Halloween Ends. We've been doing a lot of horror things and stuff like that, and we love the horror community. But you all know we are just as big of Marvel fans as we are horror fans. And I'm really, really, I'm glad that we can start talking about Marvel again. I'm glad that we're at a point and at a place to do that. Real quickly, if you're still listening, whether you're on one of the podcast platforms, Whether you're on YouTube, please be sure to leave this episode a like if you have not already, and leave us a comment. We want to hear your thoughts as always. Again, this Let's Talk Movies community is about all of us, not just me and Miguel. I mean, we want to hear what you have to say as well. So, up on the docket, really quickly, Miguel, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I was just listening to an audio, man. You're good.
Oh, okay. So, really quickly, as we kind of get into our Marvel talk here, again, I know this is kind of sinful as a Marvel fan, but I still have not seen Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's going to happen soon, I promise. We'll do a whole spoiler review episode about it. But, Miguel, really quickly, give us your thoughts on Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Okay. Gentlemen.
What's happening right now?
Wakanda Forever. I saw it by myself. And when I tell you, when this song came on...
Are we about to get a copyright strike right now?
This was... Oh, I fucking hope not. Whoops. Bro, no. Okay, but here, I'll say this. I was just trying to set the mood, because, dog, when I gotta say, I saw Wakanda Forever by myself, because obviously, I couldn't see with Brad, because this old boy is too busy flaking on me. And then obviously,
Whatever.
My lovely girlfriend has not kept up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So for the time being, I had to watch Wakanda Forever by myself. But I can say this for a fact. I enjoyed every single second of that movie. Now, how can I describe this movie without giving potential spoilers? Obviously, the movie's been out for a while. But I'm obviously doing this for the sake of Brad. But
I know that Shuri's the new Black Panther.
Okay, obviously.
I know
yeah,
that, but
that's an obvious thing. I will say this: if you're going in there expecting to see an homage for Chadwick Boseman, the late Chadwick Boseman, you're gonna get that. If you want to see what happens with the legacy of the Black Panther, you're gonna get that. If you want to see the badassery of what's going on now in regards to Wakanda and the whole world now that it's open, you're gonna see that. If you're ready to see Namor be an absolute fucking badass, you're gonna see that. My guy, when Namor was first, when you see the first time you see Namor in this fucking movie, oh my god, he was actually scary in the fucking movie.
Really?
Like, bro,
that's interesting.
Have you seen what's that movie? What's that movie where the kid were like, what if Superman was an evil person?
Yeah.
That movie. I forgot what it's called. What's it called, guys?
What do you mean? Brightburn.
Brightburn. Yeah, bro. There is a certain scene in that fucking movie that is damn near close to Brightburn. Yeah. I was like, oh fuck. So let me say this: Wakanda Forever is definitely a great sequel. Dare I say, at least for me, if you guys disagree with me that have seen the movie already, you're more than welcome to. But I can almost guarantee this felt like a Spider-Man 2 in my eyes. I mean, it was way better than not the grand scale of how great of a movie.
Oh, I was like.
But I'm just saying that all I'm saying is that it is a top-notch sequel, 100%.
I was like, wow, we're going hard with this. I was like, okay.
The emotions of this movie that you get in this throughout the next 2.5 hours of this movie is substantial. The action, the music, oh my fucking god, the music was fucking phenomenal. The acting between Shuri and Ramona and everyone else that's in the movie, it's so fucking good. And I forgot what the old boy's name is that plays Namor, or Kukulkan or something like that. But that's what his name is.
What?
In the movie, Namor's actual name is Kukulkan or something like that. And I'll say this, man. They did something different. They did it different with his origin story, but I think they did it so fucking well that it really enhanced Namor's story, or his comic book entity, I'd say. Mainly because Jason Momoa did such a great job with Aquaman. Granted, all things considered, DC's not doing fucking great, but I'll say this: they did a great job casting Jason Momoa as Aquaman. So for Marvel to try to do that, it's gonna be like one. It's gonna be like how when Aquaman came out and then Namor came out, or when Namor came out, Aquaman came out. We don't want to see that anymore. We don't want to see that anymore. We got that in the comics. We're done with that. So for Marvel to take a giant leap and pretty much change his origin story, I'd say that they've really hit the mark when they showed us everything that pertains to Namor. It hit the mark. It definitely you felt so much emotion for Namor and all the people and Dolokan, I think is the name of the place. And I gotta say, man, like Wakanda Forever is definitely the best movie out of this phase. Out of this phase is definitely one of the best.
I was gonna ask you that. I was like, is it
100%.
like best of Phase
For
4?
me is definitely the best out of Phase 4. 100%.
Is it top 10 MCU?
It's top 10 MCU for me. Wow. Fuck out of here with that shit, dog.
Wow.
Obviously, there's a lot more about this movie that you want to know. Obviously, Brad, like I'd say that you obviously know Riri Williams is in there.
Right, Ironheart.
I didn't like what everybody was saying about the comments about Riri Williams, what they were talking about, like with like the direction and how she's portrayed. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, for what it was at that time, because we're all setting up the Young Avengers. Riri Williams definitely sounds like someone that's going to be a really big part of the MCU and with the Young Avengers.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to how this film is going to progress towards the rest of the MCU moving forward, I gotta say, man, the MCU really is spreading its timeline, spreading its wings. Not timeline as in multiverse. Calm the fuck down, gentlemen. But when it comes to like the MCU moving forward, Kevin Feige is really just like it's spreading the different types of storylines that the MCU has to offer. Because we have ground level heroes, we have the multiverse saga, and then you also have everything that's going on with Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, with like the political side of like what happens after the blip. Like, I'll be honest, man, it's opened a whole new storyline that we're gonna be watching more of soon. And honestly, man, like this movie definitely is going to be another seed that plants for further installments. That's going to be very important. And I will say this: we all know that this is something that was going to happen, so this is not a spoiler. The Vibranium War, it will be upon us. There will be a Vibranium War coming soon. And I gotta say, I like where it's going with that, man. I like it.
Will that tie into Armor Wars at all, or could it?
Could it? Probably not. I don't see any connections towards Armor Wars. But I do see connections to the Thunderbolt. And I do see connections to possibly a third installment of Wakanda Forever. And let me think what else. I'll say this. The legacy of the Black Panther will definitely live on for future installments. It definitely will. Chadwick Boseman's legacy has been cemented. It was given its just due. It was grieved, and it was celebrated, and it is now solidified for it to continue. Right. I'll say that.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So Josh said I saw Wakanda Forever in D-Box. Movie was amazing, and moving seats just added to the experience. That sounds awesome.
Oh, I believe it. I wonder how you guys. I wonder how you felt on that scene whenever Namor was like, obviously giving his origin story. I bet that entire scene was fucking fun. And when that song came on and the mid-credit scene, yes, I'd agree. Fucking phenomenal, man. How can I say this? Oh, if in regards to like Riri Williams, Iron Man's legacy, Tony Stark's legacy, I gotta say, man, it's definitely, I don't know how I feel. I don't know how to properly explain it, because it's almost as if, like, I'll say this: Tony Stark basically gave. I don't know how to explain Tony Stark's legacy in this, because obviously it is in there because of Riri Williams, but Tony Stark definitely is still going to be around for a while, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like his legacy is still going to be impactful in this entire franchise, even though
Right.
he was pretty much thrown in the back burner for a lot of Phase 4. Like not much happened, and like because with like fucking with like with Hawkeye's TV show when it was all about Natasha's
Yeah.
sacrifice,
Yeah.
or like with Doctor Strange and his whole sacrifice and all that stuff. It's
Right.
we got no fucking thing about we got zilch from Tony Stark
Yeah.
and his big sacrifice. Like we don't have anything from it. But I'd say like with this movie, we probably will get we'll probably get to see more of Tony Stark's legacy coming in future installments, starting with like Wakanda Forever and Armor Wars and other installments moving forward, and possibly the Vibranium War that may be upon us. I'd say.
Man, high praise for Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
High praise.
Miguel.
I give this movie a fucking like 9.3 at least. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. I'd watch it again if I had the time or the money. Dog, I spent $20 for just myself. Like fuck. Ticket prices are back to normal. So yeah. But yeah, Wakanda Forever, absolutely phenomenal, man. Great fucking movie. The action sequence, yeah. Wakanda Forever, that shit too. I forgot what the whole thing is about Namor, but still, Namor. Oh my god, dude. Oh my god, Namor.
Yeah.
Namor out there. He ain't playing. He out there for blood. I'll say that right now.
Yeah.
When you see Namor, he's going in there. He's going in there for some business.
Yeah, Josh said, I did enjoy Namor and what they did with him. Villain, but not really. Lots of loss and sacrifice in Wakanda Forever. Very emotional film.
I'd agree. I like what they did with Namor. I'll be honest. Like, yeah, is he a villain? I mean, kind of, but I mean, it's the same premise as like Aquaman in like the comics or in the fucking animated movies. Like, it's the same thing you have with Aquaman and Namor and all the comics and anime stories. He's only here, like his only goal is to protect his people. Like that's it. Like it's keep his people safe from the land people. Like it's well known that like the sea people underwater, they don't like land people. That's established. So that whole theme is still there with Namor.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, dog. Like shit. Fucking love Namor, man. He's my favorite villain out of this entire fucking franchise now at this point.
That's
Killmonger's
cool,
close. And but yeah, Namor. Props. Hey man. Props. Thanks for giving us all representation for Latinos. Much love. Fucking great. Fucking great movie, man. I don't know what more to say. Just fucking phenomenal. I was talking about like it sucks because I didn't have no one to talk to about it because Brad hasn't seen it and my girlfriend hasn't seen it and nobody in my job watches Wakanda Forever or watches the MCU. So it's like I didn't know who to fucking talk to about it. So I'm glad I was able to get this out.
Twitter.
Yeah, no, I don't have Twitter. So, but yeah, dog. If you guys want to mention in the comments below or something in the chat, let me know because I'd love to talk more about Wakanda Forever. Absolutely phenomenal, dog.
Cool.
Great movie.
I'm really glad you enjoyed it, man.
Yeah.
And I know I got to get on it. I got to watch it.
You really do.
So our last two stories for the night. I know. Listen, we're an hour and 2 hours and 8 minutes in. We're gonna try to cap this off in the next 20 minutes or so, but by 2.5 hours. So both of these stories imply big changes, and one of them more than the other. Of course, one of them being that Bob Iger is returning, Bob Chapek is out at Disney. But this next one, I sat on this since Veterans Day on November 11th, because I've sat on it. It's disappointing because here's the deal. Spider-Man No Way Home gave us so much potential. When we realized that this Spider-Verse was a thing, and when we realized that the multiverse was really happening, like this was real, people had talked about this for so long, and it was like, oh my god, when Tobey and Andrew actually showed up and confirmed all of the leaks and all of the rumors, it was it was exhilarating, right? And of course that got people talking about, oh my god, like you could give Tobey his franchise back, you could give Andrew his franchise back. Like this, like there ain't much going on at Sony right now for their Spider-Man universe. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. And it's like, okay, cool, there's so much potential there. And of Mikey Sutton over at Geekosity, which they are, the industry insiders. They've got a really great track record, and they dropped this news story on Veterans Day, and it was pretty disappointing for me. And again, take all of these things. Any time we talk about plot rumors, plot leaks, we don't do it a ton. But any of these industry insider stories, I think no matter how credible the source, it's always important to take these with a grain of salt. Now, here's the deal. This report reads, Sony cancels plans for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4. Now, I know what you're thinking. Many of you would say, well, it's too much. We already have the stuff going on with Tom Holland and the MCU. They already have everything going on with this, like, villain Spider-Man universe. I don't know, which I think is... I don't know. We're going to get there in a minute. Plus, like, what are you going to do with Andrew? That'd be a lot kind of going on at the same time. Here's the deal. You got them back. They're here. The question of whether or not Tobey and Andrew can come back is irrelevant at this point. They're back. They're here. You got them. No Way Home left me wanting to see more of them because I love them so much. Like, Tobey Maguire is my Spider-Man. I love Tobey. And the fact that this may not be happening, his own solo project, his own solo sequel, is really disappointing to me. So, the article goes on to say, Sony Pictures cancels plans for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4. When people saw Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man No Way Home, fans just cheered. What was thought impossible for such a long time has just been done, gathering 3 generations of Spider-Man into one film. Other than seeing them fight with each other, we got a little more information on what happened to them, with all the Peter Parkers having small talk. Again, moments in No Way Home that left you wanting more. Peter saying, it was complicated, but we worked it out. And, Andrew talking about his universe. I mean, that stuff leaves you wanting to hear more about characters that we've been invested in all of our lives. But after that taste, people want to see more. After the film's release, you would think that Sony might consider making at least one film for Tobey Maguire again. Get Kirsten Dunst to return as Mary Jane and Sam Raimi to direct Spider-Man 4. Maguire has shown some interest in returning, and so has Dunst, but Raimi has admitted that he's not planning anything pertaining to a new sequel. He said to Screen Rant while promoting Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness in May of 2022, I currently don't have any plans to make Spider-Man 4, and they're so successful with the new Spider-Man series that I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I haven't pursued that. It was disheartening to know that Raimi hasn't thought of continuing the franchise that he started. Small Screen has now reported Raimi isn't the only one. Tobey's 4th Spider-Man film isn't on the docket at Sony. Sony seems uninterested in making Maguire's Spider-Man 4. Personally, it feels like a missed opportunity if they don't make a sequel, considering there's a fan base wanting to see what happened to Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Raimi wasn't able to work on what he wanted, but at least give a proper ending to the couple. Is that small detail told by Maguire in Spider-Man No Way Home our final story between them? Sony's Spider-Verse has a lot on its plate right now. Okay, we're going to come back to that in a minute. Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse are all deep into production. Moreover, Venom 3 seems to be taking shape, even though Morbius 2 is still questionable. Again, big ol' LOL. And have been reported that Tom Holland is there for another Spider-Man trilogy, although we're not sure if Garfield's version of Spider-Man will get a sequel. It could be that Sony's just focused on what they have right now, and adding another Spider-Man to the list of projects could confuse some who are new to the franchise. For now, all our hopes for Maguire to return to the MCU are in Avengers Secret Wars. Now, let's talk about this.
Remember, we got like 5 minutes to do it if that's what you want.
I know. Okay, here's the deal. My biggest gripe with Sony's Spider-Man universe is that there's no Spider-Man. How, like, I don't. Here's the deal. In a perfect world, in my head, and I'm not an executive, I'm not a studio person. I know that there are things behind the scenes that, you know, that I don't see, that we don't know as fans, because that's what we are. But here's my thought. You can still have what's going on with Tom Holland in the MCU. Different timeline, right? At the end of No Way Home, Tobey and Andrew went back to their respective universes. Why can't we still tell their stories in addition to the animated Spider-Man stuff over at Sony? In addition to Venom and Morbius and Madam Web and Kraven. I'm going to be honest with you. Does anybody really care about Morbius and Madam Web? I mean, Venom is good. Venom is fine, but it's not, like, breathtaking. It's nothing that, like, blows me away. Nothing that Sony is doing with their Marvel properties is really
the reason why everyone is so, like, interested in, like, Venom. The reason why Venom is, like, piercing out of the bullshit that Sony's given is because we finally got, like, a really good Venom and a really good Eddie Brock. Like, we've got a good combo of these two. We got the best of both worlds, and it's catching a lot of traction because we want this Venom to meet a Spider-Man. Exactly. And we got such a close glimpse in No Way Home.
Yeah.
And it sucks that, like, that pretty much, I don't know, it probably, or like in Venom 2, I think Live There Be Carnage, like, we got, like, a small glimmer, but then that, you know, it got shut down in No Way Home. So it's like, bro, like, what the fuck is, like, what is left now? I feel like that right there pretty much, like, ruined the entire hopes and dreams of a possible, like, encounter of Spider-Man and Venom colliding again. Which I don't know if you've heard in the news too, but they said, like, at some point they wanna delve into the symbiote storyline with Tom Holland. Yes. Not with any of the other, not with Andrew Garfield and you know, Tobey Maguire got his. But
and I think they will. But my biggest point here, though, is, like, I think Tobey and Andrew will be back for Secret Wars. I mean, if you've paid attention to any of the big plot rumors going around with industry insiders, Tobey and Andrew are going to be back for Secret Wars. Like, that's no secret. But, like, why not use them? Like, if they're interested, if they want to do it. Like, I don't understand, unless it's a thing with Marvel Studios that, you know, because I guess Sony and Marvel are kind of, like, okay now. Like, remember, it was like a Crips and Bloods thing for a little while. It was like they weren't like they weren't on the same page about any of their properties. But I don't understand why. I don't think Sony's Spider-Man villain universe has that much going on. I really don't. Like, it doesn't do it for me. Like, Madam Web, Kraven, I'm just kind of like, without a Spider-Man, do we really care? Does it really matter? You know? And I know people are working hard on those films, and I'll see them. I still haven't seen Morbius, I'm going to be honest with you. But, you know, it breaks my heart that, like, that we could get more Tobey. We could see, I mean, listen, could you imagine if they tied it in with the multiverse kind of shattering, and at the very end of each of their films, they got ripped out of their universe? You know, I mean,
they kind of did, because in Morbius, you know, what's his fucking face? Falcon? No, it's not Falcon. It's what's his name? What's his name, dude? Who was the first villain in Homecoming?
The Vulture?
The Vulture.
Not the Falcon,
the Vulture. Yes, the Vulture's in fucking Morbius. Like, what does that have to do with anything here? Like, really?
Yeah.
Like they cemented so many fucking seeds, but then they ended up just kicking the dirt. Like, I don't know what happened.
Well, and you know, like I said, I don't think that I would care quite as much if the Sony stuff was a little bit better, or if they had a little bit more going on. But, like, I mean, let's be, like, like I said, Tom Hardy's Venom films are fun. They're not bad, but they're also not, like, particularly mind-blowing either. And I like them. I don't say that to be negative. And then, like I said, you've got Morbius. It's Morbin time, and you have Kraven the Hunter, and you have Madam Web. But again, are we just doing the villains? Like, are we going to continue to see other villains fighting other villains without a Spider-Man thrown into the mix? Like, where does this go? Like, what is their end game? What is their goal in doing this like villain universe? You know what I mean? And again, before anybody comes at us in the comments like, "Oh, here comes the MCU fanboys," like saying that everything's got to be like a shared universe. No, like that's the beauty of what I'm trying. Like that's what I'm trying to say. That's the beauty of the multiverse era that we're in right now. Like you can still do Spider-Man 4 over here and still do the Amazing Spider-Man 3 over here and still have the Tom Holland Daredevil street level stuff going on in the MCU timeline. Like I think telling those individual stories from the villains' perspectives could be cool, but not if they're not tying into a Spider-Man thing. You know what I mean? Like let's keep the MCU stuff canon with Tom's Peter, but also tell different stories from from the multiverse, from Venom's perspective, from Craven's perspective, with Tobey and Andrew like sprinkled without. I mean, I just like I'm not naive, like I know it would be a really huge thing to take on, but again, if we don't have that Marvel, Sony, Crips and Bloods thing going on, and if they're kind of like firing on all cylinders and talking to each other, and if they're collaborating with each other, I think you could make the multiverse saga that much better. I mean, I'm already very cautiously optimistic. I think it's a very big undertaking, much like the Infinity Saga was too, and I'm starting to feel better about it, especially with this last news story we're about to talk about in just a second. But I think the addition of these one-off stories set within the Sony universe that sometimes do bridge over into the MCU through like the greater multiverse storyline, it could make this saga better. Like, I will be a little critical here, like of the MCU. I mean, again, we've said this before. We don't think the MCU is perfect. I don't think the MCU is perfect. As much as I love it, and as much as I will defend it till the day I die, it's not perfect at all. It does feel a little bit scattered. Phase 4, it feels very. I don't know. It's just like here's a few movies. Here,
I don't consider that a bad thing.
Here's a few things
he
happening.
Probably does,
like.
But...
Well, it's not a bad thing. I don't. It's not clicking yet. I don't see what's happening yet, and it kind of concerns me. Oh my god, it kind of concerns me that like we're not concerns. That's not the right word. I question the direction and the path that we're on, because it's just like here's a few movies, and then boom, Kang Dynasty, boom, world-ending events, boom, earth-shattering, universe-shattering, boom, Secret Wars. It's just like, whoa, like it's just like how did we get here from She-Hulk? You know what I mean? And Moon Knight. Like it just seems very strange. But I mean, I don't know. It's disappointing about Spider-Man 4, because if they could successfully pull this off and somehow tie Tobey's timeline and Andrew's timeline and this villain timeline, and Sony's Spider-Verse and the Fox X-Men Deadpool universe, like, I mean, if they could tie all of that together into this multiverse thing, that could be the coolest thing ever. It could kick Endgame in the teeth if they did this right. It could.
You know what you want, guys.
And that's coming from somebody that adores Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. But it's just I don't know, man. It's just it's like, I don't know. Again, it's just like I question the. I don't question. I wonder why. Like, I wonder why they're choosing to stick with their set of villains and their stories that they're trying to tell. You know what I mean? And like the article said, maybe they're just not there yet.
Yeah, maybe that could be a possibility.
Maybe they're planning on it, and maybe they're planning to branch out, and they're just not there. But I mean, who knows? Yeah. But hopefully these changes that are coming to Disney, which we're going to talk about in a minute, will kind of help that. Really quickly, Miguel, we're on our last story. I got to take a pee break. I have to. So if you want to man the chat for like 2 seconds, I'll be right back.
Okay. I mean, yeah. So let's take a look at the chat then. Let's see. Josh, you said I always wanted a Spider-Man 4 with Tobey and a third with Andrew. A shame those never happened, but them appearing No Way Home, we might get something with them in the future. I would watch. I'd say this, man. In regards to Spider-Man 4, I think the next thing, if I'm not mistaken, so here, let me take you back to like, good old young Miguel. When Spider-Man 3 ended, I always thought it was gonna go into like the Carnage storyline where I guess, Eddie Brock and Venom had already been like fucking incinerated. But obviously it would have to go to the whole Carnage situation, would have been a lot more gruesome than what we got with Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So I always thought that's probably what we were going to end up with. Now, it's a shame that we didn't get that. And I know there were like stories out there that were talking about maybe it could happen. If I remember back then, like I would like go on Google Images and like fucking watch or just like, watch a bunch of fucking, look at a bunch of images of like what it could be, what Carnage could look like. And cause that was like what we were anticipating to happen. Obviously, Sony just decided not to do that, and then we got the Amazing Spider-Man. Which, I mean, the Amazing Spider-Man, I'll say this, man, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I didn't like the first one, but in regards to like the Amazing Spider-Man, I actually liked the whole storyline between Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, and the whole thing about him, like, going throughout his life as, trying to balance it out between him being with Gwen and then being Spider-Man. And I think that was definitely one of the main topics in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Unfortunately, we got the infamous scene where Gwen Stacy unfortunately dies. And when that happened, bro, that was emotional for me. Like I was like, fuck, dude. Like I liked Emma Stone. I liked Gwen Stacy in this one. So when she died, and then ended up being like, Tobey like saying like, okay, fine, I'll be the or Peter, when Peter was like, fine, I'll be Spider-Man. I gotta be Spider-Man for Gwen Stacy. And then it goes to the whole Rhino fucking thing. I thought we were actually gonna get a fucking I thought we were gonna get a trilogy. And I was reading up on that so much. And that's when I like understand this. The Spider-Verse thing, I think, was in talks for the whole trilogy for the Amazing Spider-Man. Because if you guys have read articles back then, like it was talking about like bringing Emma Stone back as Gwen Stacy, but as Spider Gwen or something like that, and Peter trying to wrap around that whole thing, and it was going to be like a whole like Spider-Verse kind of thing. And obviously we didn't get that either. But there were just so much like open questions in like the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and there was still, it could have been, I feel like Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire could have been like a really good epilogue, I'd say. I feel like that's probably what it would have been. Just a good epilogue with fucking Carnage. And I know that probably wouldn't have hit as much. Josh, you said Topher Grace as Eddie Brock could have had a better casting. Not hating on Topher, but they made him a bitch.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. Oh boy, Eddie Brock was a simp for that symbiote.
Legit.
He really was.
Yeah.
Um,
Too many villains is one big curse for most superhero movies. Too many characters, not enough time to balance everything the way it should be. That, my friend, is everybody's biggest gripe with Spider-Man 3.
That's true. But then the MCU happened.
Right.
And it worked. So I think that's where they decided with No Way Home, they said, let's give it a shot again. Because I mean, look, they had like over 50 fucking major characters and villains in that movie,
right,
and it was a blockbuster hit. So they thought, well, let's fucking try it, and guess what? It worked. So yeah. I think that whole curse may be gone now. I don't fucking know. But it's, again, as I say with the MCU now, it's too soon to tell. And that's what I'm gonna say about this entire phase right here with Phase 4. It's too soon to tell.
Exactly.
That's all I could say right now.
I feel the same way.
Everyone giving so many gripes right now about how the direction that MCU Phase 4 has gone. Again, look, man, it's too early to tell. Like it's too soon. Because again, like if you guys don't like the whole idea of it being way too sporadic, that's how it's supposed to be. Okay, you're supposed to lay the groundwork. This is like lore. This is like telling the lore of the MCU right now, like giving you more information to go back on. Right. Because for it to just jump into like another major event, you'd be like, well, who the fuck are these people then? Like, where does this guy come from? How does this pertain to low level street thugs? Like you gotta lay the groundwork for a lot of things, man. And give it time, man. We're here for the ride. I'm not here for the peak right now. I'm not here for the drop. I'm here for the ride.
Miguel's like, it's about the journey, not the not the destination.
It is. A lot
Yeah.
of you impatient bastards need to understand that.
Well, listen, this is kind of a good bridge into our last topic of tonight, and you know, there's not all that much to say about it other than how it kind of like its implications for Marvel Studios, and I think, like you said, I've been trying to put my finger on it because I just don't feel super invested in Phase 4 right now. And I think part of that has to do with the Disney Plus shows. I think part of that has to do with the fact that Thor: Love and Thunder, while I enjoyed it, it wasn't like an uber serious film. It just feels kind of scattered. Like, you have the Shang-Chi stuff, you have Thor over here, you have She-Hulk over here. It feels very scattered. And if you look back at the origin of the Infinity Saga too, I mean, it felt that way as well. You know, it wasn't until the first Avengers movie that you went, oh, okay, all right, I get it. Okay, here we go. Like, it took it a little bit to get rolling. You know what I mean? But once the snowball was rolling, it just kept on going. And I think we're in the same phase with Phase 4, even though technically Phase 4 is done now. I think my biggest fear is that, I mean, we're like 2 years away from Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. I think they're going to get pushed back.
Yeah.
I very, very firmly believe that all of these Marvel Studios projects that are coming up are going to get pushed. Because, now that Bob Chapek is out and Bob Iger is back, I think there are going to be some changes coming. I think there are going to be some changes to the slate, some additions to things that are going to be added. There's already kind of been rumblings of some things that are on the docket or are going to get put on the docket. But I think there are going to be some changes to the overall timeline of events of what's going to lead into the Kang Dynasty and lead into Secret Wars. And I hope there is, because it seems very rushed, and I don't want them. My fear is that they're going to go, oh crap, we got to do the next Endgame right now. And it's like, no, don't do the next Endgame right now. Like, take your time, build your characters, build your story, build your universe. Then when we're ready, we'll get to the next Endgame, you know, the next universe-shattering event. Excuse me. So, Josh said, do you guys think we will get a hardcore badass Kang the Conqueror? I do.
I think we're going to get multiple.
Yep.
I'd say.
And I actually just listened to one of my favorite content creators, Michael Roman from Everything Always, actually break down one of the latest Kang Dynasty plot details. There's about to be a whole lot of variants of Kang, if that's true. Or one of the plot rumors, excuse me. And basically the Kang Dynasty is literally Kang, like the Kang the Conqueror, like Blue Kang, trying to harness all of the other Kang variants to be his, like, army. It's like Kang leading an army of Kangs, basically.
It's like Kang collecting the Infinity Kangs.
Yeah, yeah, that's basically what it is. So yeah, I think we're gonna get a lot of Kang. I don't think we have to worry about that at all.
Yeah, and like you said, Josh, like and Loki with that Kang, like, honestly, man, he was a very understanding
right. He was
individual.
pretty docile.
He said, "Dog, like, listen, like, if you think I'm bad, I'm simply keeping the timeline together, despite the some of the bad things I've done. Like, I'm keeping the timeline together because my other variants will fuck this timeline up.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm doing it." But obviously, Sylvie said, "Nope, you took me from my home. Stabby stab."
Yeah.
And Kang's like,
yeah.
Kang is like, "Let it begin."
Right.
Like,
well, and my hope with a lot of this multiverse stuff and this uneasy feeling I have where I'm like, I'm just not like 100% invested yet. As much as I love it, as much as I am an MCU fanboy, as much as I'm a Marvel fanboy, I don't feel 100% like invested in this phase yet. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. Like, it it takes a little bit to get the wheels greased up and going. You know what I mean? I get that. But the biggest news here involving Disney is that Bob Iger is returning to be the CEO. Bob Chapek is out. We're switching the Bobs here. Disney Board of Directors said that Iger has agreed to serve as Disney's CEO for 2 years with a mandate from the board to set the strategic direction for renewed growth and to identify a successor. This is a big deal, and it may not seem like it is, but let's talk about this for a minute. I mean, Bob Iger had been the Disney CEO for quite a long time. This is the guy that acquired Marvel for Disney. This is the guy that acquired Star Wars for Disney. I mean, this is the guy that is film focused, that is going to put story first and content less. And I feel like part of the issue with Marvel Studios, again, we love them. Absolutely love what they're doing. Love Kevin Feige. Love what they're doing with the MCU. But it's been a lot. All of the Disney Plus shows have kind of been a lot. It's kind of like, okay, I'm ready to get back to theatrical releases. I'm ready to get back into the theatrical big screen side of things, and not necessarily everything going straight to Disney Plus. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This article from The Hollywood Reporter goes on to say, in a stunning turn of events, the Walt Disney Company says that Bob Chapek will step down as CEO, with Bob Iger returning to lead the company. Disney's board of directors announced the decision Sunday night. We thank Bob Chapek for his service to Disney over his long career, including navigating the company through the unprecedented challenges of the pandemic, said Susan Arnold, chairman of the board, in a statement. The board has concluded that as Disney embarks on an increasingly complex period of industry transformation, Bob Iger is uniquely situated to lead the company through this pivotal period. Chapek has just signed a new multi-year contract in June after the ouster of TV chief Peter Rice earlier that month prompted to board issue a notable public statement backing the CEO. Iger even acknowledged in an email to Disney employees Sunday that he is returning with an incredible sense of gratitude and humility, and I must admit a bit of amazement. While Iger will be returning to his old role, the board also made it clear that his new term will be a temporary one. Iger has agreed to serve as Disney's CEO for 2 years with a mandate from the board to set the strategic direction for renewed growth and to work closely with the board in developing a successor to lead the company at the completion of his term, the board said. The answer to the question, who will be Iger's successor, is sure to be hotly debated again, given much of what the prior decade saw a wave of executives speculated about as a possibility, only to exit or be passed over. Iger stepped aside as CEO in February 2020, handing the reins to Chapek, who previously led the company's theme parks and consumer products division. Iger continued to serve as an executive chairman of the company, stepping down from that position just 11 months ago. Since that time, he found a part-time gig at a venture capital firm, Thrive Capital, as a partner, and had been working on a follow-up book to his 2019 tome, Ride of a Lifetime. And of course, as Arnold noted in her statement, the novel coronavirus pandemic, whatever, all the same, took its toll on the company, shutting down its theme park and cruise ships and stopping almost all film and TV productions. It also, however, turbocharged streaming growth, with Chapek leaning into streaming by reorganizing the company to focus on digital. But his tenure has also been rocky, marked with controversies and distraction. Here's where we're getting into the Marvel tie-ins. Mm-hmm. From the aggressive campaign against Marvel star Scarlett Johansson that resulted in a settlement over pay for Black Widow, to Disney's response, or lack thereof, to Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill, Chapek has had to deal with a wide array of public misfires during his relatively brief tenure with the company. But in addition to the public controversies, Disney's business has also begun to falter in recent quarters. Chapek announced on November 11th that the company would freeze hiring and stop all non-essential travel, with layoffs likely to follow as his executive team sought to trim costs. And while Disney gained subscriptions at a rapid clip, some 235 million across Disney Plus, ESPN, and Hulu, the company's streaming losses have continued to grow to nearly $1.5 billion in its most recent quarter. That's a lot of money, making it that much more challenging to hit its profitability target. Iger, a company man since joining ABC in 1974, led the network after Disney acquired it in 1995 and was elevated to CEO of Disney in 2005, succeeding Michael Eisner. While his elevation within the company was due to his business acumen, he developed a reputation for having an elevated sense of taste and creative vision, skills he had continued to put to use after stepping aside as CEO in 2020. Iger grew Disney to new heights by acquiring Pixar for $7.4 billion in 2006, Marvel for $4 billion in 2009, and Lucasfilm for $4 billion in 2012, creating a powerhouse that in 2019 saw the company pass $10 billion in global box office sales. The same year, Disney closed the unprecedented $71.3 billion acquisition of Fox, including 20th Century Fox Studio, Fox Searchlight, FX Networks, and National Geographic, creating a global content powerhouse. Good Lord, how long is this article?
It's pretty fucking long, is what it is.
We're getting to the end now, I think. While Iger built a reputation as talent-friendly, Chapek's reputation amongst creatives took a hit in July 2021 when the dispute with Johansson over the day and date streaming release of Black Widow went public. The star filed a lawsuit claiming the studio was sacrificing its box office potential in order to juice Disney+. I would agree. Their differing styles and approaches led to something of an oil and water relationship between the two Bobs. As The Hollywood Reporter's Kim Masters reported on last year, at what was to be his last formal Disney board retreat with the company, Iger implored everyone in the room to focus on the virtues of creativity and talent. Disney's market cap was roughly $55 billion when Iger took over in 2005, rose to $260 billion in January of 2020, and has fallen $167 billion as of Friday. I am extremely optimistic for the future of this great company and thrilled to be asked by the board to return to its CEO, Iger said in a statement. Disney and its incomparable brands and franchises hold a special place in the hearts of so many people around the globe, most especially in the hearts of our employees, whose dedication to this company and its mission is an inspiration. I'm deeply honored to be asked to again lead this remarkable team with a clear mission focused on creative excellence to inspire generations through unrivaled, bold storytelling. Iger told employees in his note that he will address the company on Monday with other senior leaders. I know this company has asked much of you during the past 3 years, and those times certainly remain quite challenging, but as you have heard me say before, I am an optimist, and if I've learned one thing from my years at Disney, it's that even in the face of uncertainty, perhaps especially in the face of uncertainty, our employees and cast members achieve the impossible, he wrote. So, that was a very, very long-winded article. Now, here's the deal. How is this going to impact Marvel Studios? It's very obvious, I think, that Bob Chapek was a theme parks guy. He definitely wanted to lean into the Disney Plus streaming thing, which, of course, kind of backfired with the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit and what happened with Black Widow. Even kind of looking at how people have been treated, if you look at the VFX artist thing with Marvel, the CGI artists and things like that, and them being unsatisfied and saying Marvel is hard to work with. I don't know if that is really on the Marvel side of things or on the Disney side of things, but to me at least, and what I've heard about Bob Iger is that he is very much a creative, visionary person. He's definitely going to put story first and characters first. And I think that's good for both Marvel and for Star Wars. I think Disney is going to, at least in their cinematic side of things, I think they're going to be moving back towards a quality over quantity type formula, if that makes sense, you know. And it's hard because they still have to somehow balance the theme parks and everything else that's going on with Disney, while trying to balance Marvel and Star Wars and Pixar and all of their cinematic properties as well, but. It seems like this is going to be a really good move for the Walt Disney Company, for Marvel, for Star Wars, and it seems like it's going to be a good move.
It's going to be a grand old time.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, do you agree with that? I mean, I think it seems like it's gonna be. Did I just cut out?
Yeah, you did.
Why? I have no idea why. That's weird. Made no sense.
Well, what did you ask? Because I didn't miss that. I missed that entire question.
Now the Wi-Fi's back. I don't know. I said, do you think that's going to be a good move for, obviously, it seemed kind of abrupt, but I think, again, what I've read about him is he's got the creative side of him. He's definitely going to try to put characters first. He's the dude that saw the potential in Marvel to buy it in 2000, whatever that was,
Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. No, so pretty much. I guess with the direction that they're going with the new CEO, I'd say with the track record that he has, I can definitely see the MCU definitely slowing down, not trying to throw as much content out there, and not try to make it as much as a theme park-esque kind of franchise, more of an actual legitimate universe. I guess a lot of people have grown up and come to love. And
Have you been talking to Quentin Tarantino or James
have
Cameron?
you read that? No. But I mean,
Yes.
let's be honest. It's definitely one of those movies where it's like, hey, you're here for a fun ride,
Yeah.
pretty much. Like
Right.
you're here for the spectacle, you're here for the cinematic nature, and you're also here just to see a lot of great superheroes.
Right.
That's not to say that what the characters and directors and producers have done. I'm not trying to belittle any of that, but I mean, we know what we're here to watch. We're here to watch a fun movie, and we're here to watch a lot of good CGI and blow things shit up. So I think that with this direction that they may want to go is that they may slow things down a little bit and focus more on the actual story that pertains to what we all know and love, I guess. That's pretty much my best guess. We may see a little slowdown on a lot of projects, and that's where we were talking about in the beginning. Like,
Right.
a lot of projects may be getting delayed now because the new CEO is probably gonna be like, hey, let's push it back. Let's start getting a storyboard going. Kevin, like, what is the actual plan that we're going with this right now?
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge testament to what we saw with Blade, when they literally threw the fucking script out because it just had zero substance whatsoever.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
I've seen reports that they're still really, really, really working on Blade. Like,
Yeah.
Blade is being completely rewritten and things like that, which, I think the story here is that I think they keep throwing around that renewed vision term, or that phrase, renewed vision. I think the fact that this is the guy that saw the potential in Marvel in the first place and what it could be to buy it back in 2000, was it 5 or 6, whatever year that was, like, I think the fact that he saw that potential is a really, really good sign. I think that's a sign that, okay, he knows what he's doing. He knows that, he knows that there's a lot of value in these quality over quantity stories, and I think he seems like the right guy for the job, and I think it seems like this is going to be a good move for all around, because like I said, I know it must be difficult. I mean, you could get a CEO in there that was like, I don't care about what we're doing on the cinematic side of things, although you're bringing in a lot of money from that,
Yeah.
And while Disney Plus is cool, I don't know that they're making more off of Disney Plus as they would have gotten theatrically for a lot of those films. If you would have thrown Hocus Pocus in theaters too, you know what I mean? I feel like you could have gotten. I feel like they're missing out on money that they could be getting just because they're trying to push Disney Plus. So I don't necessarily think Disney Plus will go anywhere, but I think, I do think that. I think they might.
I
Dial
doubt
it
it's
back
going to
a
get
little
put
bit.
on the back burner. I think
No.
that just a lot of other projects may be brought more focus than had it been with the previous CEO.
They'll probably dial it back a little bit. So, seems like a good move for Marvel. Seems like a good move for everybody, for the company. Listen, this is the longest show we've had in a little while. And I got to apologize to Miguel. I'm keeping him up late. But we talked about a lot of stuff. And to everybody who was in the chat, everybody who sat and hung out with us the entire time, you are absolutely amazing, and we love you, and we want to buy you a drink sometime because you're great. But guys, listen, I hope you have a very, very happy Thanksgiving. If you're in the States, eat a lot of turkey, drink a lot, eat a lot, sleep a lot, rest, be with family. We're thankful for every single one of you. Again, you guys are the best. Legit. You really are. We're so thankful for you. Real quick, Josh said, Brad, Miguel, I always enjoy you guys' content and the live shows. Always a great time. It's not even Halloween and we had a good time tonight. Yeah, it's Halloween and we're going to have a good time tonight. We're always going to have a good time, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're finally getting into talking about Marvel. As much as I love Halloween, I was kind of like, okay, I'm ready to move on. Like I'm ready to move on to other stuff. And we have a couple of things up our sleeve that we're really excited about. I actually just got a message about doing another show with somebody during this one. So it's going to be a good time, man. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us. New episodes of our shows premiere every single week at 8 p.m. Eastern. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at LTM Podcast KY. I almost said the old one. I was really close to saying the old handle, but you can find it there. If you haven't already, please be sure leave this episode a like. If you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, tweet at us, let us know your thoughts. We always want to hear them, guys. You are the best, and we'll talk to you soon. See you.
Talk to you soon. Peace.
Bye.